to 171.25 cents as of August 2nd. The national average also declined, dropping 3.2 cents to 175.4 cents per liter. Gas Buddy says fuel prices remain much higher than a year ago and warns that global events could quickly push prices higher again. The province's latest public losses reports show financial losses at the Saskatchewan Health Authority and the Saskatchewan Water Security Agency. The Health Authority recovered more than $67,000 from two employee misconduct cases, and both employees were terminated. The Water Security Agency reported a loss of nearly $24,000 after someone posing as a vendor fraudulently changed banking information, redirecting a payment. That case has been reported to police and it remains under investigation. It will be an emotional night for many families in Regina as the Journey of Hope makes its way to the Queen City. The emotional journey was started by Stalin Gill, whose 3-year-old son was diagnosed with spastic paraplegia, a rare, aggressive, and progressive neurodegenerative condition. Gill says they're trying to show support to other families going through similar things.
Bring your letters. So many children come and they paint, they do, draw their letters of hope to the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. That's what we're trying to unite. We want to share our story. We want to listen to other issues, other families who are battling the same disease.
Gill says while there is no treatment for his son, Guillermo, a personalized gene editor is starting to be developed at the University of California, Berkeley. That's 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sastoday.ca and 620ckrm.com.
For the rest of the afternoon, mostly sunny, a high of 21, very light winds out of the west-northwest. Overnight, becoming partly cloudy, southwesterly winds of up to 25 kilometers per hour and an overnight low of 11. For Wednesday, partly sunny and a high of 24 with some light winds coming out of the west-northwest. Wednesday, clearing, light winds and a low of 13 degrees. For Thursday, partly sunny, some brisk winds expected to develop and northwesterly winds up to 35 kilometers and increasing to 55 kilometers per hour, a high of 25. For Friday, mostly sunny, cooling down a bit with a high of 22. And for Saturday, it's partly sunny and expecting a high of 25 degrees Celsius. Right now in downtown Regina, it's mostly cloudy and 21 degrees.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents The Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation.
On this being the last great race for first place in the CFL West. You'll understand what I'm talking about a little bit later in the program. You can chime in on the toll-free line 1-866-767-0620 or text us at 306 936-6262. You can tell it's been a while since I've been in the studio. I'm still learning how to use the cough button again. It's like I come in here, I do just enough episodes that I get the hang of it in time to not come in for another month or two. And that's just kind of how it works. All about being a backup. Something we could talk to Jack Cohn about, I suppose. But right off the hop, in our Regina Red Sox report, we go out on the Western Pizza Hotline. We are joined by Dante DeCaria from Queen City Sports and Entertainment. Many of you know him as the broadcast voice of the Regina Pats on this very radio station. And some of you, like me, know him about Mr. Baseball.
Showcasing the boys of summer. Time for another edition of the Sportscage Regina Red Sox Report on 620 CKRM. Brought to you by Unifor 594. Energy workers, putting the care in career since 1942. Safety is our business.
So you finally made it home from Ottawa. What were you doing out there?
I went home for my best friend's wedding, a guy that I've known since I was 4 years old. I was also able to, hang out with my good friends at the Ottawa Titans professional baseball team in the Frontier League. Got to see, the manager, obviously catch up with some of the players as well, and my old broadcast partner, Davide DeCipio. So it was actually, a good time in Ottawa. It was only like 4 or 5 days, but happy to be back in Regina.
Did you check out any Red Black games?
No Red Blacks games. Pretty much straight from the tarmac to the baseball diamond, and then straight to the wedding, and then back home to Regina. So it was short but sweet, and I guess ready for the regular season finale tomorrow.
I was going to ask you, what were people saying about the whole Tkachuk thing? Were you hearing a lot of feedback about Brady Tkachuk not being an Ottawa Senator anymore in your 4 or 5 days, or was it just baseball wedding?
The only time that Tkachuk was brought up was actually at the Ottawa Titans Stadium at Ottawa Stadium, because they did a promo when Tkachuk got traded, because they have a player named AJ Wright who wears the same number as Tkachuk, the number 7. And they did a promo that night. If they brought their Brady Tkachuk Ottawa Senators jersey in, they would get a free Ottawa Titans AJ Wright jersey in return, who's been with the team for 5 years, and he's one of the best hitters in the league. So that's the only time that I heard his name brought up. I had complimented the general manager, who's a friend of mine, Martin Boyce, about that promotion that they did, and they said it was a big hit. Quite a few people came out to the stadium when he was traded that week. So good on them for doing that. But other than that, didn't really talk too much about hockey.
It's funny. I'd forgotten, and this is a very poor choice of wardrobe on my part, that the Ottawa Red Blacks are coming to Regina this week. And I dug into my closet. What's something cool I can wear on the Sportscage? And it's a retro 1994, 1995 Ottawa Roughriders shirt with the, I don't know, is that the woodpecker? What would we call him? The character? But I don't think too many people remember this, but I do, because it's right in my wheelhouse. That's the year that I got season tickets, so I remember it all like yesterday. And on, I think it was the Red Blacks Instagram, as the players were coming off the field, they had a helmet with that logo, and the players were like, oh, that's sweet. So I thought they were going to wear it Friday night. So I was all gung-ho to see this logo, and they didn't even wear it. It's like they just cheaped out. Typical CFL. But do you remember this logo? Is this the first time you've ever seen it? Because I feel like very few people remember it. You could have blinked and just missed it.
That is the first time, Brendan, that I've ever seen that logo before.
Well, you need to do your homework about your hometown CFL team. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, listen, on the weekend, I was down at the ballpark, and as you know, with the two youngins, I don't live at the ballpark as much as I used to. I expect to gradually take up residency there again in the coming years as I take my daughters. But I was summoned to do the PA announcing, because I think it came down to either Gary Brotzel or myself, and there's no way I would ever put Gary through that kind of torture, or any of the 2,000 people listening, although I think Gary would make a terrific PA announcer. But that's besides the point. Saw some good baseball. It was a doubleheader split with the Saskatoon Berries, and they were pummeling the Berries. It was 7-1 when I walked in, and they nearly blew it, and then they lost the late game. So maybe it's a good thing that I haven't been hanging around the park all summer, because I know your Red Sox could use all the help they can get. My understanding is, just from looking at the standings and the head-to-head, I think this game is meaningless tonight, is it not? I think the Red Sox are going to finish third regardless of what happens these last couple of games. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. The Red Sox have clinched a playoff spot. The Saskatoon Berries cannot catch the Moose Jaw Miller Express, who have 40 wins. Saskatoon has 37 wins. The Red Sox are playing the Moose Jaw Miller Express tonight. They're actually going to be starting a affiliate player, a U18 player by the name of Nico Hasapis, who plays for the White Butte Broncos of the Saskatchewan Premier Baseball League U18 AAA program. So I don't know who Moose Jaw's starting, but I assume that they'll also be starting some APs as well. There's only 3 games left in the season for the Regina Red Sox. Of course, tonight, they'll play Moose Jaw. Saskatoon has clinched second. Regina has clinched third. Moose Jaw has clinched first in the Eastern Division. So the table is set right now. I would have to look at the standings. Maybe, Brendan, you can pull it up. I'm not entirely sure if Weyburn can still potentially catch Medicine Hat, or if Medicine Hat is clinched fourth or not. I just know Regina is clinched third, and they'll play Saskatoon in round number 1, which is expected to get underway this weekend.
Yeah, and the Beavers they have 3 games left, so they could get to 23 wins, which would be one better than Medicine Hat, provided Medicine Hat loses out. So yes, there's still a possibility there that the Beavers could catch the Medicine Hat Mavericks. So in the booth, and by the way, it's the first time I've ever PA announced for the Red Sox. It's crazy. I've done over 100 webcasts for sure, but never PA announced, and I got a new appreciation for everything they have to do, all the chaos going around. let's just say there may have been a batter or two who maybe forgot to get introduced. But I was going to say, somebody pointed out to me that this first-round matchup with Saskatoon might actually not be all that bad for Regina. I counted up, I think it was 10 head-to-head meetings, and the Red Sox won 4 of them. So not stellar, but not a terrible matchup for a first round. I think you'd have to be okay with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I followed all the head-to-head meetings over the course of the season between these two teams, and I felt that all 10 of those matchups, despite Regina only winning 4 of those 6, were very close games. Whether it was Regina leading or Saskatoon leading, and then Regina coming back, making it a 1 or 2 run game, and then the other team, pulling ahead with the victory. The season series was very close. I don't think Saskatoon's as good as they were last year when they were led by Carter Beck, who ended up being drafted 26th overall by the Atlanta Braves. And by the way, I saw that he made his professional debut over the weekend with their Class A affiliate. So that was really cool. The highest drafted Saskatchewan-born player in history. So Saskatoon was a juggernaut last year. Moose Jaw has obviously taken the reins as the number 1 team in the Eastern Division after finishing 4th in the division last year. Regina finished 3rd and played Medicine Hat in round number 1, defeated Medicine Hat, and then defeated Saskatoon in round number 2 after they defeated Moose Jaw. And then Regina ended up beating Sylvan Lake in the league final for their 3rd WCBL championship. But in a 3-game series, anything can happen. You kind of put all your chips to the middle. You use essentially all your best pitchers, depending on how you strategize things in game 1, and then you try to win game 2. It's 3 straight games and 3 straight days. So kind of like a regular baseball series. I know they don't really have series in the WCBL just based off how the games are spread out and travel and stuff like that. But generally everywhere I've worked in professional baseball, it's all, 3-game sets. In the MLB, they do 3 or 4 game sets as well. So kind of similar to that. But baseball is an interesting sport because when you play a 3-game series, anything can happen if you get hot at the right times. The Red Sox have been playing some really good baseball down the stretch, in particular since the coaching change, whether that means anything or not. They've gotten some good defense, some good pitching, some timely hitting as well. Their older players are performing. Brady Bai has been very good. Obviously, Jalen Myers and Ian Montz and Daniel Castellanos, and even a guy like Fowler, who's been able to play some shortstop and some second base and pitch as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I mean, obviously, Saskatoon is the favorite. They do have 37 wins. Regina is, under 500. They'll finish the season under 500. They were 2 games over 500 last year. But, yeah, honestly, in baseball, it's not like hockey. If you would have put, say, for example, last year, Regina against Medicine Hat in the best 2 and a 3 series, Medicine Hat would probably win that series. It's just how the sport works. Baseball is just different. You never know.
Yeah, you know me, I'm an old soul, and I always complain about how things are and wishing they were more like they used to be. But then we have to remember that it'd be really boring if it was the way it used to be, if you only had the first place teams getting into the postseason. So it is exciting that they're still going to have a crack at this. And the truth is, like you said, their record's not a lot different than it was at the end of the regular season a year ago. I wonder if, let me back up a second. Okotoks, for about a decade, had the best record or close to the best record year after year after year after year, but never won any championships. And because of exactly what you're talking about, all it takes is for you to maybe get a guy injured or a player go home, and you struggle for a week and you're done. Just like if you catch fire, then you have the sky's the limit for you as well. I wonder if in that Barry's dugout, they're thinking about what happened last year, and yeah, they'll use it as fire, they'll use it as motivation, but it's also going to make them really nervous, thinking that, wow, we had a 13-game lead on these guys in the regular season. Remember what happened last year? This could all come tumbling down. I almost think that mind game could help the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Carnahan has been through it before with Swift Current. Obviously went through last year with the Berries, a team that only lost 9 games in the regular season. They were a juggernaut. Obviously, Carter Beck had a lot to do with that, but they do have some returning players from last year's team. Nathan Houston, who's a local product from the Regina area, has played for Moose Jaw and Saskatoon now in the last 2 seasons, would definitely remember how that felt. He also remembered how it felt when he was with the Moose Jaw Miller Express when they were walked off but the Okotoks Dogs a couple of years ago when Okotoks won the league championship before Regina won it last year. And then you look at a guy like Ethan Murdoch, who, by the way, has now been hired as the strength and conditioning coach for the Swift Current Broncos. He came over with Carnahan from Swift Current to the Berries, and I think leads their team with over 15 home runs this season. He was a big part of their offense last year as well. So they do have some key returning players that were a part of last year's squad that did lose to Regina in round number 2. Meanwhile, the Red Sox also have a good nucleus of players that were part of the championship team from just a year ago. You look at Brady Bai, who leads the club of home runs, Jalen Myers, of course, Daniel Castellanos, Ian Mons. Those are kind of the veteran offensive players that you could look at. And then on the pitching side, I know Crabtree wasn't with the team last year, but he has been with the club for each of the last parts of, I think, 3 or 4 seasons. And in the bullpen, you look at a guy like, Xander Udi-Zanger. I know he's been sidelined for the back half of the season, but still a very important piece. And Victor Akabuchi as well is a very important piece to the bullpen and the pitching staff, to say the least. So they do have a good core of players that have been there. They've done it before. They have some, fairly new faces that haven't experienced WCBL playoff baseball. But as you and I know, Brendan, and as the hardcore Regina Red Sox fans know, and the WCBL fans know, it could be over like this, snap of your fingers. You could be in and out in 2 games. I went through it in minor league baseball when I was with the Blue Jays Class A affiliate at the time, the Lansing Lugnuts. We were taking on the Bowling Green Hot Rods, which were the Tampa Bay Rays Class A affiliate. In the minor leagues, it goes first half champion, second half champion. So if you win your half, you make it, regardless of who you have at the end of the season. And then the same goes for the other team. So I think it was the Lugnuts and the Hot Rods, the Blue Jays and the Rays affiliates had won the half. We were first and second in our division in the first half. The Rays ended up promoting all of their high-end prospects to they're a high A team in Charlotte at the time. I don't know if it's still Charlotte. The Blue Jays organization, Gil Kim was the farm director at the time, did the exact same thing. Both teams plummeted. I think the Rays affiliate, the Hot Rods, were much better off. But they absolutely decimated the Lugnuts. Everybody went up to the Dunedin Blue Jays. And I remember at the time when I was working for the team, we had Cesar Martin, our manager, begging on his hands and knees, begging, send us Alejandro Kirk, please. Send us Davis Schneider. Send us these players that were in rookie ball with the Bluefield Blue Jays. Well, the response we kept getting at the time, because we didn't have any players, they had promoted everyone, was, well, those players are not ready. They're teenagers. Gabriel Moreno was another player we had requested, who was a part of that Dalton Varsho trade a couple years ago with the Diamondbacks. We had requested Nate Pearson as well, who was rehabbing. He came and pitched one game. I think it was maybe 3 innings. We never saw him for the rest of the season. We were beginning the playoffs, first round matchup against the Hot Rods. It was a best 2 out of 3 series. Well, the Tampa Bay Rays organization decides to send down all of their players from their high A affiliate, which had not made the playoffs, which stacked them. We got no one, literally nothing. We are still the exact same team that struggled for the remainder of the season. Actually, Craig Albernez, the manager of the Baltimore Orioles, was the Hot Rods manager at the time. And I still remember losing game 1 of the series, jumping on a bus for 9 hours to go to Bowling Green, Kentucky, waking up the next day. We had no batting practice at the field, and then getting absolutely shellacked, and then driving all the way back, and then everybody was gone the next day.
This feels like a therapy session for you, Dante. Do you notice that, Colson? Like, I think there's a lot of baggage from this series where his Lansing Lugnuts got destroyed, and you're just letting it all out.
I was upset. We had a great team that year. We had a great first half team. But again, I still remember it in the Lugnuts clubhouse, on our hands and knees, begging Gil Kim, the farm director, send us Alejandro Kirk, send us Gabriel Moreno, send us Nate Pearson, send us these players, David Schneider, send us these players. Please, they're not making the playoffs in rookie ball. Send it to us. And then the Rays did the exact same thing, and then we got absolutely smoked. And the playoffs, and I was so excited for the playoffs. Think about it, 142 game season, 442 game minor league season. You slug it out all year long, and you're out in 24 hours. It's just insane, and that's how it works in the WCBL because of the players having to go back to school and transferring and etc. We'll see what happens, and let's hope the Red Sox season doesn't end in a weekend stretch. It could, but it also could for the Saskatoon Berries.
Which would be hilarious. Hey, they're not making you stay overnight in Moose Jaw tonight, are they? On the way to Swift?
I'm not going to Moose Jaw tonight.
Oh, you're not going. Okay. Phew.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Most broadcasters wouldn't go to Moose Jaw on a bet. Anyways, I was going to ask you.
They got a legendary broadcaster over there, so I don't need to go.
Who, Carnes?
No, Rod Peterson.
Oh, the icon. Oh, I forgot about him. Yeah, of course. He's doing the Miller Express stuff. He comes in from Florida in the summer just for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. Cool. Okay, I want to ask you a bit about the Regina Pats. There was a comment online about Gord Miller saying during, I don't know what tournament, the Holinka tournament. Is that what's going on right now? And he made a comment after seeing Maddox Schultz and Liam Pugh do their thing that the Regina Pats bear watching this next season. Is this the year that we really start to see it come together for the Pats?
Well, I would like to think so. I think that they're going to be a highly competitive team. Super excited with a new coaching staff. Dave Bell has a ton of experience, both at the junior level and obviously at the American Hockey League level with, most recently the Ottawa Senators, Belleville affiliates. So he brings a ton of experience to the team. Del Pedrick and Terrace McEwen are experienced assistant coaches in the Western Hockey League, so they should be a nice kind of support staff with Max Paddock in there as well. On the ice, Parker Trottier, a 6th-round pick of the Montreal Canadiens, will really help Liam and Maddox this season. And obviously Zach Lansard, who was drafted in the 3rd round by the Carolina Hurricanes, will be an important piece this year as well. The 3 European players who have the same agency as Maddox and Liam, and by the way, Connor Bedard, Newport Sports, who has obviously a really good relationship with the Pats. They've had Svozil, Suzdalev, Tanner Howe over the years from that agency, and even, Ewan Hue. So the 3 European players that were recommended at Dale Durkach and Tristan Fry, the management side, are expected to be good players as well. So I think the team is shaping up quite nicely. I know they have to make some decisions on their overagers. I think they have 5 returning 20-year-olds. You can only have 3, so they're going to have to make decisions at training camp on who's in and who's out. As far as Maddox and Liam, nice to see Liam Pugh score 2 goals for Canada as they killed Switzerland. I know it's going to be a little bit of a different test tonight when they take on Slovakia, a much more competitive team than Switzerland. I saw Ewan Hue's brother, younger brother, get the start in net for Switzerland yesterday, so that was cool to see. I know he didn't fare too well, but Maddox and Liam playing on the same line, super special players. They're underagers playing in that tournament. They'll have to play essentially in back-to-back U18 tournaments at the Linka Gretzky. They'll play in it next August as well. That's pretty much a lock considering they're playing in this year as underagers. I mean, Landon DuPont is going into his draft year. Maddox and Liam's draft year is not till 2028. So, Gordon Miller obviously knows what he's talking about. The scouts there, I'm sure, know what they're talking about as well. But I think people here in Regina have watched these players play, both the Pac Canadians and the Pats, for the last calendar year. And with Maddox Schultz, they've watched him play essentially growing up through, the minor hockey ranks and now with the Regina Pats. He had 30 points in 34 games last year. He was unbelievable. So I expect those 2 players to be really important, but you can't just win hockey games with 2 players. I think we witnessed that with the Pats in the 22-23 season with Bedard leading the charge and Svozil and Suzdalev and Tanner Howe and Borja Vallis, but just didn't necessarily have the depth and the support cast to take down a very good Saskatoon team and ultimately fell short in Game 7 of that series. And Regina was up 2-0 in that series, but just didn't have enough depth to have a deep playoff run. So I know Dale and Tristan are looking to take it a step this year. They lost in 5 games to Medicine Hat last year. This is a team, as I mentioned, that has added some good European players. The acquisition of Parker Trottier should help from the U.S. NDP program. Zach Lansard is a year older. Reese Hamilton is a year older. Matt Peranich is a year older. Things are starting to shape up quite nice. And, Maddox and Liam, they'll be very important players at 16. But guys like Keith Fawcett will have to continue to, be 30-plus goal scorers like he was last year. And they're going to have to get contributions from other players. I think Mathis Paul has a chance to potentially get drafted this year. I had a good conversation with, some scouts around the NHL about him, and they're already looking at him for next year's NHL draft. He's a big 6'3" power forward, ton of size, can skate well, good touch around the net. So I like the Pats forward group. I think there's a question in net. Marek Schlenker is a 20-year-old. Tabashnik is 19. Do they roll with a 20 and a 19-year-old? I don't know. I don't think so, just because you give all the minutes to Schlenker, and you have Tabashnik there as a 19-year-old, and he doesn't get the minutes that he needs. It's tough. Generally, you don't want a 19 and a 20-year-old in between the pipes unless you're really going for a Memorial Cup. I don't think the Pats are there just yet, but I do think they'll be one of the premier teams in the Eastern Conference.
You gave a very long-winded, articulate answer. You will make a great politician one day. But do you want me to shorten that for you to, I think we're going to be pretty good this year, Brendan, but our Memorial Cup year is the year after.
Yeah. That's a pretty good analysis right there, to be quite frank, Brendan. I don't like saying the Memorial Cup stuff because I got in trouble with that when I was, first started with the Pats in 21-22. Everybody said, well, the Pats are going to the Memorial Cup in Kamloops in 22-23. That didn't happen. They were kind of in no man's land, trying to make moves to help the short term and the long term. Those moves didn't work out. I know the Pats don't have a first-round pick in this year's WHL Prospects draft, but they've had a first-round pick in the draft after. So, yeah, this is an important year. You don't have your pick currently with the Kelowna Rockets. They might have traded it this year, but that was part of the Liam Pugh trade. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Before I let you go, it's no secret that there's been, fans love to complain about high ticket prices, and that has been around the Pats in recent years. And the announcement just came out this last week that is changing for the new season. And we've been hearing stories that, with the new management structure, ownership structure of the real property, that we're now removing the middleman. So I would think that somebody who works for the Pats and who is a public face of the Pats has to feel pretty good to see news like that out there. And you're probably getting different feedback on that front than you've been getting for the last couple of years. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'll say this tongue-in-cheek, Brendan. It's nice to get messages and see comments online of people not, I don't mean to be blunt, but complaining and upset about the organization.
You're always going to get some of those no matter what, but you're going to see few of them because of this.
Yes, 100%. And just from my perspective, I think that the Brandt Group of Companies, Brandt Sports and Entertainment, by the way, not Queen City Sports and Entertainment, it's now Brandt Sports and Entertainment, is putting a lot of investments into entertainment here in the city. Obviously, taking over the Real District will help as far as getting concerts. The Queen City distilleries as well will be crucial, not for just Pats games, but for Saskatchewan Roughriders games as well. So I'm sure they're going to have a ton of great events at the Brandt Center as they continue to hopefully do some renovations and stuff like that. And then, the Regina Red Sox as well. I know that when Sean Semple bought the team, he wanted to make some improvements there. Potentially build a new ballpark. That would be really cool because let's just face it, Curry Field has seen better days. It's nice to have the Jumbotron at Curry Field, Brendan. I don't know what you thought about that, but I think
I loved it. I thought it was terrific. Yeah. And I'm a traditionalist. I don't like that sort of stuff, but it really adds to the experience there.
You got to have it, man.
In 2026, you can't go without it.
Well, I mean, it's nice to know who's batting and stuff. You see their picture on the board, and you've got your sponsored elements and stuff like that.
Listen, I do the U of R Rams radio broadcasts on this station, and when we go to Saskatoon, and they have a cool little park, Griffith Stadium, and when you see they don't have a digital screen, you really notice. You don't have replays. You don't have lots of stuff. It draws away from the experience, and I hear people there complain about it, and they might even have one there this year, and I'm just thrilled to pieces. Listen, it's a really exciting time to be around the outfit that you're working for. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for me as a fan. And I also will maybe throw a little bit of a bouquet to ownership that when people were complaining about the high prices, they didn't say, well, this is why we have to charge high prices. They just kept quiet and they went about their business. So I commend them for that, and I give them credit, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen going forward. Hey, listen, never enough time. Great to see your face, and I appreciate you coming on the radio with me because you always let me mock you, and you do it with a smile on your face. And hopefully the Red Sox can pull off an upset again, and we can talk about a repeat championship, or at least a chase for a repeat, the next time we're doing this, okay?
Okay, thanks, Brendan. Thanks for having me.
Okay, that is Dante DeCaria, the voice of the Regina Pats, with Brant Sports and Entertainment taking over, I was going to say the world, but more the real district, the Regina sports world, let's put it that way, everything but the Roughriders. And I'm excited to see what the Pats are going to do, and I'm especially excited to see what the Red Sox are going to do in the next week in their first-round series with the Saskatoon Berries. Time to break. Still ahead on this edition of the program. Lots of CFL talk, and we'll cut into the Blue Jays as well. J.C. Abbott, Arash Madani, and Glenn Suter all on deck. You are listening to the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and watching at sportscage.com.
Listen weekdays at noon for Saskatchewan Today on CKRM with your host, Ryan Young, offering the most extensive agricultural news coverage with precision weather meteorologists in an industry that moves fast. Stay updated with the latest, most reliable information in ag news, crisis and trends, all in one place. Available anytime at SaskAgToday.com. Saskatchewan Today, your trusted source for all things agriculture. Sponsored by Affinity Credit Union on 620 CKRM.
The Roughriders season is here, and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
Hello?
Wanna play a game?
Not really. I'm trying to get...
What goes up, but not down?
My garage door. I'm late for work and waiting for the repair guy.
You can manually open it if you pull the...
Yeah, I know, but I need it fixed, and I'm not gonna get out of my car and pull the rope 8 times a day.
Call Busy Bee Doors. They can fix or replace any commercial or garage door.
I was just excited I found someone who still has a landline.
Oh my god.
Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
Remember when you were out there having some tomfoolery, riding in the back of Grandpa's pickup truck with your friends with no padding or seatbelts? What isn't tomfoolery is where you get your tires. Go to your local Cooper tire dealer. They carry Cooper Discoverer Road and Trail AT tires. They have a durable tread that helps resist cutting, cracking, and tearing that occurs on rough trails. Have your vehicle ready for the road before you are. Visit your local Cooper tire dealer and ask for Cooper Discoverer Road and Trail AT tires.
Out here in southern Saskatchewan, the sun shows up for work every day. Might as well make it earn its keep. That's where Keln Solar comes in. These folks travel all over the province helping people put solar on their homes, farms, and cabins. They're local guys, Sask-born, Sask-raised, and not going anywhere. Except, to your place. Now's the time to start planning for spring and summer 2026 bookings. Give Keln Solar a call and they'll come show you your best options. Keln Solar. They move the power so you don't have to. KelnSolar.com.
If it's happening in sports in Saskatchewan, we've got it covered on Sportscage. Be part of the show. Call 936-6262 or toll free 1-866-767-0620. On your radio at 620 CKRM and online at sportscage.com.
Brendan McGuire and Colson Schultz with you on this Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage. Very happy to have you along with us. Still ahead on this edition of the program, I'm curious to hear some opinions on whether or not the Ottawa Red Blacks can go 0-18 this season. No team in professional football has ever gone that far in a losing season. I suspect no team in football history, period, has ever gone 0-18, because the only league that has an 18-game schedule is the CFL. And it was funny, I don't want to spoil the TV show that we have coming up tonight in the Huddle on Access, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. We talked with Andrew Green today on the program, and we reminisced about 2003 when the Roughriders were the one team to lose to the Hamilton Ticats, who went 1-17. That's the closest I've seen anyone going over an entire CFL season. We have seen NFL teams do it. The Detroit Lions in 2008, I think it was, went 0-16, and then the Cleveland Browns a few years later. But that's it. So that would be remarkable. The Red Blacks are 0-7. I think they will get a win. It won't be this weekend, I don't think. And what's astonishing about them is they keep finding so many different ways to lose. It's not like their offense just sputters nonstop and everything else is okay. It's not like they have this really leaky defense. It's not like it's just their short yardage offense, although that's been a big problem in a red zone offense. It's not just their short yardage defense or special teams. It's all of those things with these guys. They have snatched defeat from the jaws of victory so many times in so many different ways, including the last Saskatchewan-Ottawa game earlier this season. Remember, Ottawa had them down 10-0, and then they fumbled a kick return, and you just knew in that moment that they were going to fold like a cheap suit, and they did. And the Roughriders came roaring back to win that football game. So I'll be curious to hear prognostications on how likely it is that the Red Blacks could run the table one bad practice at a time, one bad call at a time, and one missed play at a time. But that's been reminiscent of their season. And I remember when the Red Blacks came back into the CFL, the narrative, well, first time they joined the CFL in 2014, I should say, Ottawa came back into the CFL, and the narrative was, we're going to be different from how the Renegades were and how the end of the Roughriders were. And it feels like they have totally morphed into what those teams were, and you almost wonder if they're even worse. Speaking of football woes, maybe the Riders' best defensive player is Roland Milligan Jr., and he's missed a lot of time with injury, and Coach Mace was asked today if his injury is season-ending.
Roland is going to be tough, I'll say that. Don't want to eliminate anything, though.
Didn't sound very optimistic, did he there, Colson?
Not very.
So we'll see how that goes. Injuries are part of the sport. You know what? I have to give the Riders a lot of credit because they've had a lot of injuries, even in this last game. They were without, no A.J. Ouellette, and their record is significantly better when he's in the lineup than when he's not, largely because of not just how he carries the football, but things he does away from the football, his blocking. And they were without Sam Emelis, who might be their most important offensive weapon other than their quarterback. And they had a few other players who were out. Oh, Tavon Campbell had to leave the game late. And that's a real kick in the you-know-what. So they were missing a lot of players for a good part of that game, some of them the entire game, and they pulled it out. And some have diminished the significance of this win in Edmonton because the Elks took so many bad penalties, and they did. They made a lot of mistakes. But every team has at least one game in a season where they do that. And sometimes those penalties happen out of the pressure cooker of a big game like that. And it comes down to which team maintains its poise to the final gun and which team does not. And the Roughriders did a much better job in that game in maintaining their poise than the Edmonton Elks did. There was a lot of silliness happening over on that Edmonton side. Now, one can expect that they will, and by they I mean Edmonton, will have learned their lesson and you will not see them do that again. But that is not a guarantee either. We have seen many teams over the years who come storming out of the gate and looking great, find ways to lose because they can't maintain their composure. So this Elks are winning and the Elks are good is a very new thing. can they handle success? And we see it with teams in every sport, and we've seen it many times with the Roughriders, that when the team gets hot and they get that taste of success, can they manage it? Can they manage those expectations? We're just starting to find out with the Edmonton Elks. So far, they've done a pretty good job, but it's still pretty early, and they didn't do such a great job Saturday night in Edmonton.
No, and the bench penalty definitely showcases that too, because it's one thing for some players to be getting rowdy on the field. It's another thing when the coaches start getting involved in that. But for Edmonton's sake and for the league's sake, I hope they get it together. Because like you said, it's one of those things where they can start hot, but then start falling apart. And it's nice to see Commonwealth full again. So I really hope that, again, for the league's sake and for Edmonton's sake, we're not seeing too much more of this.
Well, I think Edmonton hosted a playoff game every year for over 20 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, or about 20 seasons. I'm talking from about 85 to 2005. They had a home playoff game every season. And so I grew up in an era when all they did at home was win. And they played on grass. Some people thought they cheated because they'd monkey with the grass. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to be heartbroken over Edmonton's football team struggling. But to your point, I had forgotten how beautiful Commonwealth Stadium is when it's full. And it was only the lower bowl. But this isn't the end of it for the Elks or for the Canadian Football League. Their work isn't going to be done until that one side of the upper deck is full and then the other side of the upper deck is full. We've seen it many times before, and it's a great CFL town. It always has been. But I think for the fan base that used the excuse they didn't like the name change, I think that's gone. I think you have to get over that at some point if you're a real fan, and if you don't, then you probably didn't love the franchise all that much to begin with.
Yeah. I do appreciate them bringing back the double E logo. I think that's just a nice way to homage as compared to the Elk logo, which isn't a bad logo.
Yeah, I wasn't sure why they did that Elk thing at all, but when they picked that name, and I thought it was the best name. I've heard differing opinions. Some people say it should have been Edmonton Energy. I think Elks was fine. They could have had a little more fun with it, like have a game where they give out some cheap little rubber, like elk antlers that the kids can wear. I don't know if they've done enough of that.
I've seen foam, not rubber.
Foam, well, whatever, whether it's rubber, foam, whatever. But and to be fair, I can sit here and lecture the Edmonton fans about who cares, it's just a name change. If you came and told me that the Roughriders had to change their name for some reason, I don't know that I'd be on board with that either. So we have to realize and respect that it is more than just a name of a sports team, especially one as long-standing and iconic as the Edmonton football franchise is more than just a name. I was going to mention about the kicking situation. There are some who are wondering if Alex Hale needs to be replaced or if they need someone to come in and challenge him. Just practice, kind of like late last season. I think the Roughriders brought 2 kickers, if I'm not mistaken. I remember Campbell Fair being one of them, to practice with the team when Brett Lowther was still here, and Coach Mace offered a few thoughts about that.
Yeah, you always look at all those different options. We'll see, but ultimately, we're gonna have to send somebody out there to get the job done. And right now, Alex has been here and doing that. I'm gonna have faith in him to do that. If we choose to bring somebody in for competition, we'll always do what's best for the team. But Alex is more than capable of doing it. We've seen it.
I think they should just leave the kid alone and just give him the season, unless it gets like really bad off the rails, which it's not. For comparison's sake, yes, Brett Lowther is 20 of 20 this season, so that makes it look bad. But Brett Lowther wasn't kicking that way here last year. Through 17 field goal tries, Alex Hale is 12 of 17. For anybody keeping score, Brett Lowther was 11 of 17 this time a year ago. Now, Brett didn't have a very good year, but they did win the Grey Cup, so there's that. And so I don't know that they need to pile all this pressure on this kid. Maybe, and I'm talking about Alex Hale, just let it play out. I mean, if his percentage gets so bad that he's like below 50%, okay, obviously you have to go out and find somebody and bring them in. I think what drives me a little bit nuts, and I'm not picking on Alex Hale, is the Global Player Initiative. I'm fine with the idea, but the problem is that there are so few non-North American players who can play any position but kicker. And so what that has done is it has loaded up all of the teams, including the Saskatchewan Roughriders, with place kickers and punters who are not Canadian, they're not American, they're from some other country. And it has saturated that one position to fulfill this global initiative. They're just not executing it well enough. I don't think you ever want to have a situation where, whether it's a Canadian, American, or whatever, are always at this position. That tells me that the mandate is failing and failing badly. Another thing, and I know I've got to take a time out here, we've gotten rid of the rouge. We haven't gotten rid of it, but we've changed it. We've modified the rouge. And I like the fact that in the Hamilton-Toronto game, Liram Haralahu lined up for a chip shot field goal to win the game. He missed it. It sailed out the back of the end zone, and the Argos lost. That worked really well. I noticed that there was one play when Hale missed the field goal in Edmonton where the returner got out of the way. We watched the ball bounce on the ground and go out the back. And I thought, I'd kind of like to see someone try to make a football play here. So that's one collateral damage, casualty, whatever you want to call it, from the rule change, which is not perfect. And we're going to have to give it some time to see if this modified rouge actually makes the game better or not. I'm still optimistic about it, but we will see. Time to break. We'll have more football talk and some baseball stuff as well. You are listening to the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and watching at sportscage.com.
The world is changing. From the misuse of AI and the rise of deepfakes to the dangerous spread of misinformation, it's getting harder for Canadians to separate fact from fiction. That's why having a trustworthy news source is vital. At Global News, we're committed to objective journalism that cuts through the noise. Stick to the facts. Global News, Canada's trusted news.
Have you seen the patio at Pump Jack's Cathedral?
Seen it? I've practically moved in.
Do they at least charge you rent?
Only if I stop ordering food.
I don't blame you. Great food, daily food and drink specials.
30 beers on tap, including local favorites.
And there's no better place to catch the game with friends.
So what are we waiting for?
I'm waiting for this conversation to be over. Let's go.
On the corner of Albert and 13th, Pump Jack's Cathedral Saloon and Steakhouse. Come early, stay late. The place where friends meet.
The Roughriders season is here, and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
Why test for asbestos? Because before 1990, asbestos was commonly used in more than 3,000 building materials and other products. Because when asbestos fibers become airborne, they get into the lungs and cause severe damage over time. Because asbestos exposure is the #1 cause of work-related deaths in Saskatchewan. Built before 1990? Test for asbestos. Start at worksafesask.ca.
Text CKRM 306-936-6262. Powered by Prairie Land Rentals. From power tools to skid steers, they probably have what you need for your job. 600 Albert Street, where you deal with the owner. It's time for the Sports Ticker. Brought to you by Reliance Heath Water Heater Rentals. Rent a water heater and water softener starting at about $1.20 a day and get $400 when you switch to Reliance Heath.
Lots happening in the Western Canadian Baseball League tonight as the regular season winds down. Some teams have as many as 3 games left. The Regina Red Sox just have 2. One of them is in Moose Jaw against the Miller Express. That's a 7:05 opening pitch start. The Red Sox will finish in 3rd place, and the Millers will finish in 1st place. So it's entirely possible that they will meet in the playoffs at some point, but some dominoes would have to fall the right way, and I think the the Red Sox are hoping that the Millers lose to Medicine Hat, because Medicine Hat would be a much better matchup for Regina in the second round than Moose Jaw would be. The Medicine Hat Mavericks are visiting the Swift Current 57s as well. The Mavericks will finish fourth, and Swift Current will not be part of the postseason. The Saskatoon Berries are visiting the Weyburn Beavers. The Beavers still fighting to try and claw their way in. The Berries will finish in second and will play Regina in the first round. Holinka Gretzky Cup Tournament preliminary round. Slovakia is playing Canada. That game is set to get underway at 5 o'clock Saskatchewan time. Of course, Maddox Schultz and Liam Pugh playing for Canada. The Blue Jays playing the Houston Astros tonight, looking to make it 2 in a row over Dalton Varsho and his new teammates. That is a 6:10 opening pitch set to start right after we go off the air here on the Sportscage. Sportscage.com poll, now that the prices have been lowered for the tickets for the Regina Pats. Are you more likely to attend a game next season? I voted yes. You can vote too at sportscage.com. And that is the sports ticker for this Tuesday, August the 4th. Still ahead on this edition of the program, we will check in with JC Abbott from 3downnation.com. Also, Farhan Lalji has a few thoughts to pass along. And we will go to the West Coast for Glenn Suter for his weekly press coverage dealings as well. But we were talking about the Rough Rider victory. One thing I wanted to bring up, and this is doesn't have a tie-in to the current Rough Riders, but Amon Green, many of you might remember, was a pretty good running back in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers for a while, and for a short time at the end of his career with the Houston Texans. And I remember talking to Kenton Keith, a former running back with the Riders who went down to the NFL and had one really good game with the Indianapolis Colts. And he was telling me that in high school, he and Amon Green were billed as kind of the two stud running backs. Sorry, I don't remember if it was high school or college. I think it was high school. And so I'd be curious to hear what Kenton thinks about Amon Green announcing that he has early onset Parkinson's. 49 years old. And so we've been hearing a lot about head injuries and long-term effects in football. And there have been a lot of changes made, and it's still too early to know if those changes are effective or not. And what I'm talking about is the way we protect players from being hit, though I don't know that we protect running backs any better than we did 20, 30 years ago. The helmets are different. I think those are very different, and that's a good thing. Thomas Bertrand Hudon may start for the Rough Riders on Friday night, and I can't wait to talk to him and learn about his decision to wear that beanie cap on the field. He might have been the first player in the league, certainly the first Rough Rider to do it.
He was the first pro in any league.
Okay, and he did it in the warm-up, and then he started a game with it, and then I think he went away from it, and now he's doing it again, which I think is great, but I'd be curious just to hear about his thought process, and I wonder if it's just a macho thing, why more guys don't do it. Why wouldn't you? That's what I can't figure out, and I wonder about that. Now, again, that's easy for me to say. I don't know all of the logistics of those beanie caps. They might be a little bit heavier, but I give him a lot of credit, man. I feel like if I was doing that job and if I want football to be amazing forever and I want my own health to be good and I want to set an example for other teammates, why wouldn't you? And I think he's doing just that. So I salute Thomas Bertrand Hudon for stepping up at a time when it seems like a lot of pro football players are just afraid to try it. Like even you see the interviews with Tua Tagovailoa, the NFL quarterback. He's with Atlanta now. And he's been asked many times. And actually, I think the reporters have been kind of silly. It's almost like they're picking on him because he's had so many concussions. And that's not right either. But he says he doesn't want to do it, and a lot of people think he doesn't want to do it just because of the looks. That just seems really silly to me, and I wonder if you won't see a lot of the players changing that until it gets legislated. It's kind of like in hockey. They grandfathered in in the 79-80 season, you had to start wearing helmets. And if you had started before that, you didn't have to wear the helmets. They had the grandfather rule. I think Craig McTavish was the last guy to not wear one. And over time, everybody wears a helmet. Then they started making a big deal about players wearing visors. And I think the rules now are, when you break into the NHL, you have to wear a visor. But if you play 25 games, you can then take it off. And almost nobody has. So that should tell you something right there. And the list of players not wearing a visor today in the NHL is very low. It's a very short list. I think Ryan O'Reilly might be one of the last. And that's probably not a bad thing. I'd be curious to hear what you think about that. You can chime in on our text line at 306-936-6262 or call us toll free at 1-866-767-0620. Time to break. We'll be back with Hour 2 next. You're listening to the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM or watching at sportscage.com.
If you've got a Steelcraft garage door, you've got a door with parts manufactured and assembled right here in Canada. A door with better insulation and seal, plus a warranty you're probably never going to use. Combined with a LiftMaster opener, it's the right choice. And if you don't have a Steelcraft garage door, you should get one. And a LiftMaster opener. 100% made by Canadians for Canadians. Steady, tariff-free pricing and great quality, no matter what.
Steelcraft door, Steelcraft door, Steelcraft door. We offer more.
Remember when you were out there having some tomfoolery, riding in the back of Grandpa's pickup truck with your friends with no padding or seat belts? What isn't tomfoolery is where you get your tires. Go to your local Cooper tire dealer. They carry Cooper Discoverer Road and Trail AT tires. They have a durable tread that helps resist cutting, cracking, and tearing that occurs on rough trails. Have your vehicle ready for the road before you are. Visit your local Cooper tire dealer and ask for Cooper Discoverer Road and Trail AT tires.
The Roughriders season is here and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
Have you seen the patio at Pump Jack's Cathedral?
Seen it? I've practically moved in.
Do they at least charge you rent?
Only if I stop ordering food.
I don't blame you. Great food, daily food and drink specials.
30 beers on tap, including local favorites.
And there's no better place to catch the game with friends.
So what are we waiting for?
I'm waiting for this conversation to be over. Let's go.
On the corner of Albert and 13th, Pump Jack's Cathedral Saloon and Steakhouse. Come early, stay late. The place where friends meet.
This is 620 CKRM, a Harvard media station. Available everywhere in high-res audio with the CKRM app.
It's 4 p.m. Good afternoon. Sunny and 21 degrees in Regina. I'm Will Manzik from the SAS Today newsroom with 620 CKRM News. The Regina Urgent Care Center will have reduced hours today due to physician availability. According to the Saskatchewan Health Authority, the center will operate from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. before returning to regular hours tomorrow. The SHA says patients with emergencies should call 911 or visit a hospital emergency department. For non-emergency concerns, residents can call Healthline 811, visit a walk-in clinic, or contact a pharmacy. The Saskatchewan Health Authority reported 2 financial losses in the first quarter, but says both amounts have been fully recovered. Provincial reports show one case involved $65,100 after an employee hired their own business for unauthorized work and approved payments. Another involved a $2,000 donation diverted for personal use. The employees have been terminated, and the SHA says it is strengthening oversight and financial controls. Separate reports show Saskatchewan Polytechnic and regional colleges reported no losses. WestJet and its striking flight attendants have reached a tentative agreement ending a strike that disrupted travel across Canada. The deal was announced just over 24 hours after around 4,400 union members walked off the job. Hundreds of flights were canceled, including several in Regina and Saskatoon. Canadian Press reporter Hannah Stoles has more.
That's around 62% of the flights scheduled, despite the carrier reaching a tentative deal early that morning with the union representing 4,400 flight attendants. WestJet has said a full return to normal operations will take time as the airline resumes flying and repositions its aircraft and crews.
The agreement still has to be ratified by both the airline and the union. A 3-year-old boy from British Columbia with spastic paraplegia has become the inspiration for the journey of hope. Spastic paraplegia is a rare, aggressive, and progressive neurodegenerative condition that will progressively steal Guillermo Gil's ability to walk, speak, eat, and his independence and cognitive ability. Guillermo's dad, Stalin Gil, says his 5-year-old daughter actually helped start the journey of hope.
One day she asked her mom to write on a sticky note that, Mom, Dermo needs help. Please help our Dermo. And she asked her mom to put it at the highest point in the world where everybody can see that sticky note and provide all the help that Dermo needs.
Gil is in Regina tonight at the Sikh Society to share his family's story and listen to others. That's 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sastoday.ca and 620ckrm.com.
Weather for Next Gen Coatings. Spray coatings for truck bed liners, rocker panels, and more. Same company, new name. 1865 McCarra Street, Regina.
For the rest of the afternoon, mostly sunny, a high of 21, very light winds out of the west-northwest. Overnight, becoming partly cloudy, southwesterly winds of up to 25 kilometers per hour and an overnight low of 11. For Wednesday, partly sunny and a high of 24 with some light winds coming out of the west-northwest. Wednesday, clearing, light winds and a low of 13 degrees. For Thursday, partly sunny, some brisk winds expected to develop and northwesterly winds up to 35 kilometers and increasing to 55 kilometers per hour, a high of 25. For Friday, mostly sunny, cooling down a bit with a high of 22. And for Saturday, it's partly sunny and expecting a high of 25 degrees Celsius. Right now in downtown Regina, it's mostly cloudy and 21 degrees.
For over 40 years, you've known them as Regina's trusted vehicle protection specialists. Now they're introducing the next gen of coatings. New name, new level of protection. They're now Next Gen Coatings. 3 generations of their family have served your family, and that hasn't changed. Same owners, same commitment, ready for the next gen of truck beds, rocker panels, trailers, bumpers, and running boards. The company hasn't changed, just the name. Next Gen Coatings. 1865 McCarra Street. The next gen starts now.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents The Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com, our YouTube channel, and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Brendan McGuire and Colson Schultz on this Tuesday Sports Cage, province-wide on the almighty 620 CKRM and also at sportscage.com for those of you watching on the YouTube channel. You know what's really sweet about the YouTube feed is when I was a little boy, I used to bring my transistor radio to the Rider games, and I still do that because you can't always get the audio synced up with the play unless you actually have the transistor radio. I ordered one from Walmart. I waited like a week for it to arrive. It's not so simple to get a transistor radio like it used to be in the good old days, but I've started listening to Dave and Luke and Tegan do their call on my Bluetooth at home, and then I put on the video, the TSN feed, and I put it on silent, and it's really easy to sync up, and it's actually pretty sweet because you get all the sound. The radio sound on a broadcast is always so much better than the TV crew, and that's not putting the TV crew down at all. It's just called differently when it's on radio, and they have different tools that are used to elevate the sound. But I urge you to check it out if you're a diehard fan and you want to check that out. And Dave does such a good job, and him and Luke do a really good job on the broadcast, and so does Tegan. So that's how I watch the games, and you can even just find it. You don't have to fool around too much to find it. You just go to YouTube and you type in Sports Cage, and boom, it'll come right up. And they've got got all the visual from the pregame. Then we go to audio during the game because obviously somebody pays a whole whackload of cash to do the games on the TV. And then you come back for the postgame and they have all the visuals again. So it's pretty cool little setup. Look at me just being all corporate and pumping up the Rider radio broadcast. Okay, let's get to Arash.
It's time to go coast to coast with Arash Madani for Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Gawley at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
So you worked for the CFL team in Ottawa for a while, and I don't think too many people remember this logo at all. Sorry, I'm not doing a very good job of getting it on camera.
I see it.
Do you remember the Ottawa Roughriders wearing that woodpecker logo in the last 3 years of their existence? 94, 95, 96. I think you were there when they were the Renegades. Am I right?
I was Renegades 04 and 05. But, I mean, look, if you know Ottawa football history and working the front office and in a PR capacity, I knew all about the logos. I knew all about the ups and the downs and more downs and more downs that franchise endured. And absolutely, there was stuff still around the office, you know, when people dug for stuff and finding old media guides and that kind of thing, you'd see that logo around.
Just like you see the Renegades logo around sometimes. We'll get to that in a moment. You'd predicted that we were going to see a giant sell-off by the Toronto Blue Jays, and it's one after another. It's happened over the last few days. How weird do you think it must have been for Dalton Varsho, first of all? He goes to Houston on the Blue Jays jet, and then while he's at the stadium, he gets traded and has to switch and play against his old teammates that night.
Yeah, think about that for a minute here, Brendan. Like, for the last 3 or so years, you're a Toronto Blue Jay. You know that you might get traded. But then you arrive in Houston, you're in the visitors' locker room, you get a tap on the shoulder from the GM. Hey, can I talk to you from somebody? You've been traded. Okay, to who? The team down the hallway. Like, literally. Colson, why don't we, for those watching on the stream, Dalton Varsho left the visitors' locker room at Minute Maid Park and walked, 200 meters down the hallway into the home locker room. And then later that night, he comes out in a brand new jersey, only to walk out into the outfield. And who does he run into but Nathan Lucas and George Springer, and they exchange a hug. Like, fellas, 3-4 hours ago, we were in the same locker room. Now we're going to play against one another. Pro sports, man. Like, it's just wild how it can all go.
It's not as cool as Danny Jansen catching his own at-bat in that game that was weather delayed when he was with the Blue Jays, and then he moved to, I think it was the Red Sox, and then he was on the other team for the next game, and he caught his own at-bat. My wife explained it all to me. It sounded really cool. Right. But you told us last week you thought that for sure it was inevitable that Kevin Gausman would be traded because of his expiring contract?
Yeah, and lo and behold, a day before the deadline, Gausman off to Chicago, where, Brendan, his first start with the Chicago Cubs will be against, drum roll please, Los Blue Jays de Toronto.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so it's just incredible, again, how baseball works. So often we think about these guys and what they've done. Kevin Gausman, numbers-wise, will go down as one of the top 5 Blue Jays starting pitchers ever. Like, by basically any trick. Obviously, Halladay is number 1 and Dave Steeves in the conversation. But 5 years Kevin Gausman was a Blue Jay. He was outstanding, of course, part of the World Series team. And I remember interviewing Kevin when he first got to his first big league spring training with the Jays and having a lengthy conversation and talking about his wife, Taylor, and, having young kids. Like, those kids grew up in Toronto. Like, what they knew was the Blue Jays. And Kevin's wife, Taylor, has been pretty emotional over the last couple of weeks. End of a chapter. 5 years is a long run in a place anywhere in pro sports. But then especially when you're raising a young family, they basically, those kids grew up at the ballpark. I appreciate what Gausman said. He said, look, this isn't the end in Toronto, because when I retire, I'll be around. I'm coming back to, be a presence. So from an alumni standpoint, he wants to be a Blue Jay through and through.
That's my favorite thing about professional sports is how it connects Canadians and Americans and people of all different countries together, and that's something I think the world could use a little bit of right now. Jeff Hoffman.
Let me just stop you there real quick. I think it's a really interesting point, because a lot of times you hear in baseball and the NBA all the reasons why guys don't want to come to Canada. Because of the customs, because there's no ESPN up here, because all the things we've heard over the years, the metric system, the different money. Guys come, some come up here and they're unhappy, blah, 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 or they come in open-minded and they leave and they rave about the experience and they tell people. Often what ends up happening is a Canadian team will trade for somebody to bring them in or draft them. And then a player who had no interest in signing a free agent long-term deal anywhere, anything to do with Canada, kind of looks around and says, this is amazing. I am going to spend some time here. The latest example, Jose Barrios with the Blue Jays, Kyle Lowry with the Raptors. On and on we can go about guys who didn't think anything of it, of being up here in Canada, and then they get a taste of it, and they're down.
And you see a lot of even the Winnipeg Jets, who are supposedly the most undesirable Canadian market to go to in any sport, and they managed to re-sign a lot of American players. That part always amazes me, too, once they get up here and see how good it is. Jeff Hoffman, rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, will always be remembered for that one World Series pitch, won't he?
It's the nature of the beast. And Brendan, look, the metrics are what they are. The results before and after, turned into a 7th, 8th inning guy. But Miggy Rojas with a dislocated rib in the 9th inning with the Blue Jays 2 outs away from winning a World Series, the 9-hole hitter hitting that bomb off Jeff Hoffman will define his time in Toronto. And that's the nature of professional sports. That's just how it's going to be. And Hoffman appreciated his time here. He was sad to go, all those things. But ask anybody in Philadelphia on the flip side of that. Up here we talk about Joe Carter in 93 and how memorable it was. Go to Philadelphia and ask somebody about Mitch Williams. It wasn't a walk-off to win it, but it ended up being the walk-off to really, in a lot of ways, lose it. And it's, as my new podcast partner, shameless plug, Josh Donaldson would say, it's not the try-hard league, man, it's the get-it-done league. And in the biggest spot possible, Jeff Hoffman did not get it done. And that is what his memory is going to be for a legion of Blue Jay fans, understandably so.
Just think about maybe the greatest career Montreal Expo pitcher of all time, Steve Rogers. Nobody really remembers that he beat... I forget who the really good pitcher was for the Phillies twice in the playoffs that season, and but he gave up on Blue Monday, so that's what everybody in Montreal remembers. I guess this is the end of the World Series era, Blue Jays. It just kind of came and went. You could blink and you would have missed it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that last part, though. It really felt like last September and last October kind of meant something. I think there are a lot of people listening and watching right now who probably hadn't watched a lot of baseball. And then from about, October 20th onwards, it became appointment TV for them. That every night you got into it and you followed it. But yeah, the moral of the story is win when you can, because you never know. You never know. You don't pick up where you left off. Everybody starts 0-0. And, you're that close to winning a World Series, and now you're tearing the whole thing apart and you're 15 games or 12 games below 500, whatever it is.
Yeah, I often did the comparison of Anthopoulos to these guys, and he's won a ring with the Braves. They haven't. But that was a pretty cool year, I agree. And even the post-game celebrations in the playoffs for my wife and I, that was like must-see TV, and usually we don't watch all that goofy stuff. So it was a pretty cool memory anyways. Well, we've been talking CFL all show. Actually, we haven't talked that much of it yet. Speaking of sell-offs, is it underway with the Ottawa Red Blacks with their 0-7 record now that they fired the defensive coordinator and they cut Gino Lewis? What happens when you're kind of in the bottom of the barrel and you haven't got a win yet and it's almost mid-season?
Yeah, I mean, it's just inevitable. It's just inevitable. Ryan Dinwiddie had some pointed comments on Ottawa radio today, just saying, inferring with the firing of Will Fields, that he was trying to get his defensive coordinator to change things up and do things differently, and it just wasn't happening. He wants the players to stop thinking all the time out there in the field and just reacting and playing with instincts. I'm never one to want anybody to lose their job, but it became clear that Shakur Brown was just not ready for prime time. He, along with Gino Lewis, was released, and it was Brown who was just getting torched all the time. You saw why Montreal cut bait and then went after him. So, look, there's more of this ahead, Brendan. Like, they're 0-7. It's essentially getting an early start now on training camp next year. The Red Black season is toast. You got to figure out what you have, bring in guys to see what's available to you. And Gino Lewis publicly came out and said he didn't ask for this, but it's probably the best thing that's going to happen to him for this year and to try and kind of revive his career.
Yeah, it seemed like he sort of wore out his welcome in Edmonton, although that was more of a financial thing, and then it happened in Ottawa. But you have to think he's probably still got some talent. He's a size guy. I don't think you lose that overnight.
There's 7 teams. There's 7 teams that'll want Gino Lewis.
Sure.
Maybe even 8. Like, if Ed Hervey can get over his own feelings, add Gino Lewis alongside Austin Mack to have Cody Fajardo to go sling it to. Shoot, let's go. Like, in the old days, in the ancient old days, we used to talk about Labor Day cuts. That doesn't exist anymore. Gino Lewis can be the biggest add to a football team right now that feels like it's a contender or wants to become a contender. Obviously Hamilton's not, Ottawa's not, and Ottawa just cut him. If I'm BC, I even entertain it. Nathan Rourke was taking first-team reps today. Give Rourke another weapon to work with. I see 20-1 BC Lions as real value right here for a Grey Cup run. So I just think Gino Lewis adds a lot, knows the league, knows what it takes to win. On and on it goes. He'd be a valuable add anywhere.
Could create some nice drama and a nice soap opera story if he lands in Edmonton, but we'll see. Yeah. I want to get your thoughts because if Ottawa loses here on Friday, they're going to be 0-8 and almost halfway through a season. Now, no team has ever gone 0-18. Do you think we're at a point that there's a 50% chance that it could happen?
No, I think there's a win in there at some point. I mean, Hamilton's a disaster too without Bo. Look, if we're being honest, Ottawa should have beaten Winnipeg. You're up 17 in the fourth quarter. You're playing Drew Brown, for goodness sake. They just gave that thing away. The Red Blacks are not very good. Are they a 1-6, 2-5 possibility? Maybe. They got a win or two in that tank. They're not going 0-18, but 2-16, 3-15, that ain't pretty either.
I don't even think they're a bad football team, to be honest. Well, okay, they're a bad team, but I don't think they're that bad. They just find different ways to lose every week. One week they can't score in the red zone. The next week it's their short yardage offense. Then it's their short yardage defense. Usually there's one glaring issue that you can address, and it just doesn't seem to be the way with these guys. They lose in so many different ways. It just fascinates me. They're a
But that's what makes you a bad football team, when you're that bad in so many different areas.
What I meant was they have some talent there, and they have some pieces. They should be better than they are. And yes, they're a dreadful football team. Well, Bill Parcells said you are what your record says you are, and their record's pretty bad right now. So, Chad Kelly, do you think he's going to play this week for the Argos, their first home game this year?
I do. Coming off the hit, coming off the bye, the indication that's been given is that Kelly's a go. And I didn't think it was a dirty hit. I didn't think he should have been fined. Sankey's been in the league a long time. He's not a dirty player. He had no track record of it. And so, yeah, I'd expect Chad Kelly to absolutely go this week.
One thing I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on, because I know we talk about the league as a whole, and there's been so much chatter about the rule changes that have happened already and the rule changes that are still coming, and they're going to be a lot more drastic next year than they were this year. The modified rouge, I'm on board with it. I'm glad they did it. I love the fact that when Liram Haralahu missed that kick in Hamilton, the game was just over because he missed it. There wasn't a rouge. Yep. Yeah, you're not just going to overtime or whatever. But then I watched the Rider game in Edmonton. I watched a few other games. Like when Alex Hale missed the kick, I watched the return man get out of the way, watch it clunk off the ground, and roll out the back. And that was the end of the play. And I thought, I don't know, something's missing here. It's like I'm almost getting cold feet with all this. What do you think?
Okay, so I'm having a hard time understanding the rationale that there will be no more missed field goal returns for touchdowns. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I still can see 2007, the Chargers, I think it was Antonio Cromartie.
And I was just going to say Antonio Cromartie. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like if it's a long field goal, if it's a 55-yard field goal,
sure,
and the goalposts are the back of the end zone, why not put a dude back there? That if the kick ends up being short, it's almost like a kickoff, return that sucker. Will there be fewer of them? Yes. Fewer opportunities? Yes. It does not eliminate it. And let's be honest, this year just feels like there have been more missed field goal returns for touchdowns than ever before. So I'm with you. When Haralahu missed that field goal, the game should have ended there. That's not the spirit of the Rouge. That's not what the Rouge is all about. And I really believe that we're still going to have a missed field goal return for a touchdown either next year or the year after. And then what will people complain about? That's what I really am fascinated by, Brendan.
No, that's a good point. And I don't have any analytics to back this up. Maybe I should be more of an analytics data guy. But I believe that because of because of those missed field goal returns happening so often, I think that some coaches have been afraid, like they've wimped out from trying these long field goal tries. I feel like you're going to see more long field goal tries that could lead to more of those returns happening. And certainly we're not going to see them disappear completely. You're right. We're going to see fewer of them, but we're not going to see them disappear completely. Where I think the naysayers are missing the point is that now with this new rule, we have created or will have created a no zone between, I think, the 25 and 40 yard line or somewhere in there where you're too close to punt and you're too far away for a field goal. And we're going to see trickery. Teams are going to try and surprise punt, and you're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff happen. That's my thought.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm watching that Winnipeg game last week. And not only was that one of the worst losses that this team has had in the last, I don't know how many years.
It's dreadful.
But Mike O'Shea's insistence on 3rd and 2 to kick field goals, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was thinking that too. I'm glad you brought that up for sure. We're going to see more of those gambles.
If you're in that no zone, if you're in that no man's land, man, let's go for it on 3rd and 4. Let's go for it on 3rd and 5. That's way more entertaining for again. Like I quite enjoyed when Winnipeg and Ottawa went to overtime and we're not playing for a tie anymore, and it was a bit of a shootout. Let's kind of see what the best 2-point plays may be. Let's get more offense, and let's get less. Look, punters are people too. I get the kicking game matters, but let's get fewer special teams units on the field, and let's get more offense on the field. Let's see more 3rd and 4s. Let's see more 3rd and 5s. I think that's what a lot of people want to see.
I can tell you that's what I want to see. And when they changed the convert rules, a big reason was to get coaches to go for it more, or to go for 2 more instead of 1 and be aggressive. And they still aren't doing it. Sometimes you have to legislate it. And I think that's what we're doing. The most lovable thing about Bill Belichick, and there's not a lot of lovable things about him, but when he was in that no zone, if it was 4th and 5 or less, he was going for it. There was no punting. There was no field goal kicking. But anyways, we could kick that around. We will do this again later this week. Thanks for this, my friend, and we'll talk to you again.
All right, Brendan. Always good, bud.
Okay, that is Arash Madani on Coast to Coast. And, really curious to see what comes of these rule changes next year. I think it's going to be better because I think you're going to see, especially when there's a wind at your back, quarterback, especially someone like Trevor Harris, just take the second down snap, drop kick it into the end zone, and have his receivers who are all on side chase after it. And I think you're going to see more of those rugby-style plays and surprise touchdowns that'll make up for those missed field goal returns. But we shall see. Time to break. You are listening to the Sportscage on 620 CKRM and watching at sportscage.com.
He's a Saskatchewan Roughrider legend, a Grey Cup champion, and part of the Sports Cage. Catch Double Talk with Darian Durand every Monday on the Sports Cage. Doubles is talking all things CFL and Riders like only he can. Double Talk is brought to you by Dutch Agriculture, quality for generations. Catch it live Mondays, just after 5, or check out the podcast at sportscage.com.
We asked Gordon how he started investing with Brian Golly at Smart Investing Solutions.
We phoned him and met with him, and we went through different options, what was going to work for us, and it's been good ever since. Overall, he's done very well for our investment.
Don't guess with your money. Call Brian at 306-546-2533. SmartInvestingSolutions.ca.
The Roughriders season is here, and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
Remember when you were out there having some tomfoolery, riding in the back of Grandpa's pickup truck with your friends with no padding or seatbelts? What isn't tomfoolery is where you get your tires. Go to your local Cooper tire dealer. They carry Cooper Discoverer Road and Trail AT tires. They have a durable tread that helps resist cutting, cracking, and tearing that occurs on rough trails. Have your vehicle ready for the road before you are. Visit your local Cooper tire dealer and ask for Cooper Discoverer Road and Trail AT tires.
What's going on in the markets? When is the right time to invest? What should you do with your money today? When Linda had questions, she talked to Brian Golly.
He's always well prepared and has answers for us. We take it as gospel, and he's led us down the right path so far.
You don't have to plan your financial future alone. Call Brian Golly of Smart Investing Solutions. 306-546-2533.
We would recommend Brian anytime, and we would recommend him to anybody.
Is it time to refresh your cottage this summer? It's easy with lakeside deliveries from Freeze Tallman. Whether you're rebuilding the deck, fixing the dock, or taking on a full cabin project, Freeze Tallman delivers the building materials you need right to the lake. With reliable service and delivery you can count on, you'll spend less time running around and more time enjoying the weekend. Start your summer project at freezetallman.com. Freeze Tallman. Locally owned, family grown, rooted in our community for 70 years.
The Sports Cage Clutch Performer for Keln Solar. Thinking about saving money by using solar power? Keln Solar is a local family company that can put solar panels on your home, business, or farm. KelnSolar.com.
Clutch Performer time?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to give two quick ones. I got to give one to the Edmonton fans for showing up. I read, actually, two things happened. One, Winnipeg's sellout streak finally ended, which, with how bad that game was, I'm not surprised. But two, Edmonton had more fans in their stands than Winnipeg did this last week.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so got to give a clutch one to the Edmonton fans. And then, like, Wally Conley with the reverse hurdle. Like, come on.
That's a pretty sweet play.
Yeah.
That's even cool. I'm not going to say it's cooler than Nick Lewis's hurdle that he did a few years ago, but that's still a pretty sweet play.
Yeah.
Those are good choices. I went a little off the map. I went with Johnny Johnson III because of that sweet kickoff return. Rob Vanstone pointed out on social media that 87-yard kickoff return, and it was the second kickoff return of the game right out. It was the answer to the Elks' opening drive touchdown, and I know we're showing it on the YouTube feed. And then not only did he make that return of 87 yards, it was the second longest non-scoring play on special teams in Rough Rider history, probably the second longest play, non-scoring play in Rough Rider history. 87-yard return. Craig Ellis had one longer. Craig Ellis was kind of Mr. Everything for a couple of years with the Rough Riders in the mid-1980s. But even right after that, Johnny Johnson III made a really tough catch that helped set up that first Rough Rider touchdown. So I thought it was a pretty cool story that he ended up here, and he played pretty well, and I think he's as worthy of a clutch performer as anybody else. Okay, great. We'll just go right to our next guest. We are going out on the Western Pizza Hotline, and he helped me with the TV show a little earlier today, so I'm making him do double duty. JC Abbott from 3downnation.com is here, and we talked about it when we were taping earlier, and we just had Arash Madani on. Do you think there's at least a 50% chance that the Red Blacks could run the entire table in reverse? Like one bad practice at a time, they just might do this, JC?
I think it's far less than 50%. Now, is it impossible? Probably not. But this has never been done before in CFL history, right? We've never had an undefeated team in an 18-game season, and we've never had a winless team through an 18-game season, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's very hard to do either of those things. At some point, there's going to be an anomaly, and you're going to luck into a victory. Now, when you look talent-wise, I think the Ottawa have a lot of really good players, right? They've got several key components from that Saskatchewan Grey Cup team last year that are on that roster right now. It's not as if these guys are derelict of good football players. It's just an organization that has been incapable of finding ways to win over the last number of years and has a number of structural problems. Now, I think they will eventually figure that out enough to get a couple of victories, but it's not going to be enough to get them into the playoffs this year. I think that's safe to say at this point because it would be unprecedented, right? We've never had an 0-7 team make the playoffs in a CFL season. We've also never had a winless team through a CFL season. So you can bet on those two outcomes. They will get a victory, but they won't be in the postseason.
This year's Ottawa Red Blacks would dearly love Stu Johnson's new playoff format. Unfortunately for them, the playoff format is next year. Personally, I think the playoff format change is a disgrace, but I guess I'll give it a chance because I don't have any other choice. I like most of the other rule changes. I even love some of the rule changes, to be honest. But this would be a real embarrassment for the CFL, wouldn't it, if there's an 0-7 team that's still in the thick of it, which is probably going to happen. I mean, that's inevitable when you have 8 of 9 teams getting in the playoffs. Like I feel like they've dodged a bullet PR-wise that Ottawa is having such a bad year before that change happens.
It will happen. There will be an 0-7 team or worse that makes the playoffs under the new format. Obviously, if it stays around long enough. We don't know how they'll respond to it once they see it in action, but presuming that it is the playoff format for the foreseeable future, at some point we're going to see that level of mediocre. And on one hand, you could look at the standings right now and you could say, well, the BC Lions, we all know how good they've been in the past and some of the talent on their roster. Well, if this is a format that would allow them to get into a playoff game and potentially shock some people with a bad record, maybe it's not so bad. And I can understand that argument. But the flip side is you're going to get some pretty inept football teams in the thick of it as well, right? The Ottawa Red Blacks would still very much be in the hunt. And, even if we look later on in the season, there's a lot still to be determined about a number of these franchises. But the Hamilton Tiger Cats, if they can't figure out their quarterback situation, do we really want a playoff game where we're watching Harrison Frost sling the rock, and maybe Frost exceeds expectations and comes in this week and looks fantastic and makes me eat my words. I'm completely open to that possibility. But there's a lot of bad teams that come through a league like this and that have fatal flaws that don't deserve to be in the postseason. And unfortunately, the new format will let a number of them into it.
I'm just hopping in here because Jason Wood, our video director, brought this up in our meeting this morning, that the 69th Grey Cup in, I think it was 1981 here, featured the 5-11 Ottawa Roughriders. So teams with bad records have made it that far before. And as it points out here, they came within 3 seconds of beating those very dominant Edmonton Eskimos as well.
It can happen. It has happened.
It's true.
But it happens almost never. Like that. What made that 81 story so iconic is that it happened once over 40 years ago. I think the concern I have is, could this make it happen more regularly?
That's where I'm at as well. There's always going to be anomalies, and that Ottawa team is a great example of that. But I think when you look at the overarching theme of CFL seasons, right, those teams at the back of the pack, they're typically 5 wins or less. They are typically teams that are considering a coaching change. Some may have even fired their coaches already. Like that's not an organization that deserves to be rewarded with the opportunity to win a game in the playoffs and advance, right? And unfortunately, it's going to become the norm with this format. It's just inevitable because only one team's going to miss, and there's more than one bad team in any given season. So mediocre teams are going to be rewarded, and you have to wonder how that's going to affect, decision making for these franchises. Already, teams like Ottawa sometimes get criticized for, are they being aggressive enough sometimes to stop the losing? Are they making the right decisions? Well, if you're being rewarded with playoff games and extra opportunities, even if your team is terrible throughout the regular season, what's your incentive to get better, to invest in the product and to make bold decisions? That scares me a little bit.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on from that nonsense. It just means that Stu can only fix it by delivering that 10th franchise, or better, 11 and 12. I wanted to talk about some of the games around the league. We'll get to the Riders. But the team that you follow as closely as anybody, the BC Lions, going into Winnipeg and getting that victory. And I realize it was not really a thrilling football game, but you have to give BC a lot of credit for making it happen. This quarterback, Caden Salter, I hope I got his name right. His passing stats didn't look spectacular, which is not a surprise. But he was sure a lot of fun to watch, the way he was dipsy-doodling around pass rushers and linebackers. And he's Casey Printer's cousin. Do you see any similar characteristics from, and I realize Casey might be a little before your time, but do you see any similar characteristics between the way he played as BC's quarterback and the way this Caden Salter might be for BC if he gets another chance, assuming Nathan Rourke's not ready to go this week?
Well, it does sound like Nathan Rourke will be ready to go this week, coming straight off the practice field in Surrey, where he was taking all the first-team reps this week. But in terms of Caden Salter, I do see some similarities, right? Casey Printer's had a huge arm. Caden Salter, I think, has a huge arm as well. Maybe doesn't look the same part because his frame is so slight, but he's got a cannon. He throws the ball extremely well. It didn't necessarily connect from an accuracy standpoint in his first start, but you see the talent that is there. And then Casey Pringers could move and run a little bit. And Caden Salter, I think, is a better runner as a quarterback, but they share that athleticism. And I think there's also a little bit of a shared mentality and energy in terms of the confidence that they bring. Now, hopefully Caden Salter doesn't misstep in some of the ways Casey Printers did in his career in terms of his attitude and not being able to take on the backup role and having his ego get too big. That'll be something that this young man will have to avoid. But the energy that he brought to the Lions and the confidence and the fact that he was taking hold of teammates on the sidelines and saying, hey, we got this. calm yourselves down. Don't take a bad penalty here because we're in control of this football game. For a rookie, a 23-year-old rookie, in his first start in the Canadian Football League, that was immensely impressive to me. So I think Salter has a bright future. He needs to be molded and developed because he's very raw. But I think we saw the start of what could be a very successful career if he embraces it the right way.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he learns from Nathan Rourke. He's going to have a chance to learn from him if he hasn't learned some things already. I want to talk around the league a little bit. The Hamilton Ticats losing at home to the Calgary Stampeders. I don't think that was a big surprise to anybody. I give the Cats a lot of credit. They pulled the Miami Dolphins thing where they chose to wear white under the hot sun as the home team. I'm amazed that more teams don't do that. But I guess what jumped out at me a little bit was the benching of Trey Ford when it happened halfway through the second quarter. I guess it was closer to halftime than that. I understand that Trey is very hit and miss, but I don't know that you're getting the full menu from him if you're getting one great game out of him and then one so-so game out of him and then less than a half of football. I don't know about this quick trigger that we're seeing with Trey Ford. I had concerns about that in Edmonton and concerns in Hamilton. What do you think?
I'm a little bit in the same boat as you. Now, it can't be dismissed that he was playing poorly in that game, right? 4 of 10 passing is not going to get it done. He was inaccurate. I think there were some poor decisions being made on his behalf. And we've seen that before from Trey Ford. But the reality is, if you're pulling a guy before halftime, you're not giving him a lot of leash and a lot of rope to develop and find his rhythm. And we've seen time and time again with Trey Ford that sometimes he discovers it in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, and is able to pull a fabulous performance out of something that started out like a stinker. I don't know that Scott Milanovich has that level of patience, though. And I think he wants to find out what he has in that quarterback room. I think he likes Harrison Frost as a prospect. There's a reason why they brought him back, despite the fact that he had organized his release to go to the UFL this offseason. It's because he has some confidence in him being able to run his system, and he hates turnovers. And the reality is that Trey Ford is turnover prone, and that was a bad fumble on a sort of embarrassing hurdle attempt from him in that game. I wish he would have given him more leash in that particular contest, but I don't think that overall it's a bad decision to see what you got from Harrison Frost. Because if that's the direction you're going, if you're not willing to embrace the chaos with Trey Ford, if you're not willing to give him that leash, then he's not the type of guy that you can just put in for a quarter and see if he starts the game hot. Like, he has not responded well to that in the past. If you want somebody who was more stable, even-handed, then maybe see what you have in Harrison.
I just find myself rooting for Trey every time he's playing, maybe a little bit because he's Canadian, but more so because I just feel like he is the perfect athlete for the Canadian Football League. And I've even heard Milanovich say the only other quarterback, I think they used this quote on the TSN broadcast, something to the effect, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, of the only other pro football quarterback who can do what he does was Michael Vick. And to me, I just feel like he's the guy. He is a guy the CFL needs, and I just want him to be that guy. And maybe he's not, but you don't really know if you don't try. I think that's what kills me with him.
Well, and there is a struggle, right, between coaches wanting to embrace that athleticism because it is so unique and not being willing to necessarily dive in fully with Trey Ford because you're worried that it's a system that you can't replicate with other quarterbacks, and he's been injured in the past, and what if he turns the ball over? And I think we exist in a Canadian Football League right now that is intensely turnover averse, almost to their own detriment. Like some of the greatest eras of offensive football in this league had some of the most turnovers, right? They were entertaining
football. I grew up loving the league in the early 90s. If I was 9 years old at any other year than 1992, I don't know that I would have loved the CFL the way I do, because that was when, like you said, the gunslingers were turning it over and doing everything else. Listen, before we go, because I know we're tight for time, I wanted to get your thoughts about the Rider-Elk rivalry that seems to be redeveloping before our very eyes. We've seen the Roughriders play Edmonton in the playoffs a ton over the years, but not since 1976 have we seen Edmonton come to Regina, and it was for the last Western final that Ron Lancaster won, and the whole year was spoiled by the Gabriels open in the end zone and everything else that we don't need to rehash. But do you feel like the stars are aligning in a way that we could very well see a showdown for first place in that last game in Regina at the end of the season? It just feels like the stars are aligning for it to be these two teams to fight it out till the end.
It really does. And look, they need to stay healthy because anything can happen. We know how reliant the Saskatchewan Roughriders are on Trevor Harris. If he goes down, knock on wood, they're a very different football team, and the West playoff race looks a lot different. But the fact that they were able to split these first two meetings and Saskatchewan was able to even this season series means that this battle should continue for the rest of the year. And they're good teams in the West Division. I don't think you can count anybody out. The BC Lions are still a contender despite the fact that they're 2-5. Calgary looks like a dark horse team, but you cannot argue that these are not the two best teams in the West right now. And the fact that neither of them has complete control of the season series means that we will set ourselves up for potentially something brilliant in week 21. I mean, there's a risk that one of those teams goes on a slide and then it doesn't matter. That would be intensely disappointing because I want to see that for all the marbles and that be for the first round bye. I think that would be the biggest game of the season. It would be must-watch TV across the country.
And the last time we would ever see that in a regular season because of Stu's playoff format changes. But I digress. JC, good of you as always to do this for us. I made you do double duty today, so checks in the mail. And we'll read all your stuff at www.3downnation.com.
Always happy to help you, Mac.
Okay. That is JC Abbott from 3 Down Nation, always one of our favorite people to talk to. I tried to get him off the hook and get John Hodge, but him and the wife are in Newfoundland right now. That would be a pretty cool trip to do this time of year. I don't know if I'd want to go there in the winter, but I think a great summertime destination would be the great province of Newfoundland. Time to break. We will have more of the Sportscage. We still have to do the Sports Select Sprinkle of the Day and pick the score. You are listening to the Sportscage on 620 CKRM and watching the YouTube feed at sportscage.com.
The Roughriders season is here, and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
Why test for asbestos? Because before 1990, asbestos was commonly used in more than 3,000 building materials and other products. Because when asbestos fibers become airborne, they get into the lungs and cause severe damage over time. Because asbestos exposure is the #1 cause of work-related deaths in Saskatchewan. Built before 1990? Test for asbestos. Start at worksafesask.ca.
Hello, Clarice.
It's Brittany.
Have the lambs stopped screaming?
Those aren't lambs, that's my garage door. I don't know why it's making that sound.
I hope you called Busy Bee Doors. They can fix or replace any commercial or garage door.
I did, and?
Brittany? Paul from Busy Bee. What's with the old guy on the dolly?
Ugh, ignore him.
I do wish we could chat longer, but...
Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
Play of the game? Touchdown! More like the game to play. The new Saskatchewan Roughriders Scratch and Win ticket. It's your chance to win 10 years of Rider season tickets, a premium suite for the home opener and the Labor Day Classic, and tons of Rider swag. Plus, 2 chances to win $75,000. Tickets available at your favorite lottery retailers. Proudly brought to you by Sask Lotteries, supporting sport, culture, and recreation across the province. Please play responsibly.
A potluck in summer? Heck no. I'm not cooking for 30 in my sweltering kitchen. I'm bringing Western Pizza. That's the very definition of working smarter, not harder. Be the potluck hero and roll up with fresh za as your coworkers try to figure out which homemade dish gets the one spoon from the office kitchen. Or as Auntie Janet tries to shoo away the flies attacking her egg salad sandwiches, baking in the sun. Nope, it's Western Pizza for the potluck win. Dine in or take out today.
And get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
It's time for the Sports Ticker, brought to you by Extreme Hockey and Sport, 1425 McIntyre Street, the Cooperator Center, Moose Jaw Temple Garden Center, and online at extremehockey.net.
Well, lots happening in the Western Canadian Baseball League, especially tonight. The Regina Red Sox are on the road to take on the Moose Jaw Miller Express. Now, that's a game that doesn't mean anything for the Red Sox. They're going to finish third regardless, and they are going to face the Saskatoon Berries in the first round of the playoffs. The Red Sox have one more game after that. They will be heading off to Swift Current for the final game of the regular season, and then they'll wrap it up and start the playoffs. Other games tonight, Medicine Hat Mavericks are in Swift Current to play the 57s. The Saskatoon Berries visit the Weyburn Beavers in the 2026 Holinka Gretzky Cup preliminary round. Slovakia plays Canada. They're just set to get underway in about 10 to 15 minutes. Of course, Maddox Schultz and Liam Pugh from the Regina Pats both playing in that game. The Blue Jays, after winning in Houston last night, they'll try it again tonight just after 6 o'clock, visiting the Houston Astros. And our Sportscage.com poll, now that the Regina Pats are lowering their ticket prices, are you more likely to attend a game next season? Vote at Sportscage.com. And also, I wanted to mention Extreme Hockey will be hosting Professional Women's Hockey League players on Saturday, August 8th. So that's this coming Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. There will be autographs, team merchandise giveaways, prizes, and draws. A lot of those PWHL players actually hanging out in Regina for the summer, which is kind of cool. You see them hanging around the gym and other locales as well. Okay, right now we go out onto the Western Pizza Hotline, and we are joined by Brian Raymond from Flowing Springs. Brian, did you catch the Rider game on Saturday night?
Yes, I did.
And what did you think?
Boy, that was a hard-fought game, and you could tell that it was a back-to-back game. There were a lot of scores being settled there, but I think a good, solid effort from the team for sure.
You're a hockey guy, and it's funny you say that because I remember watching the game and just sitting there thinking, this kind of feels like a chippy hockey game, like a chippy playoff game. Did you get that feel?
I got that same feeling, absolutely.
I knew you would enjoy that for sure, being an old hockey soul that you are. Flowing Springs, what's happening out there this week?
Well, we've got our great specials. Tomorrow's Wednesday, and we have this unbelievable special every Monday and every Wednesday. Seniors, that's people over 60, and ladies, doesn't matter if you're a senior or ladies, only $42 to come out and play the golf course. We have our afternoon or early twilight special at 3 o'clock. It's $40.50. After 6, it's $22.50 to come out and play. And I got to tell you, lately this has become very, very popular. A lot of fathers and sons, fathers and daughters, husbands and wives, boyfriend, girlfriend are coming out in the evening. It's beautiful. Come out and play 9 holes. It's easy to get 9 holes in right now. And the course is in absolutely fantastic shape. And, Brendan, if you don't feel like playing golf right now, maybe you want to come out and take out your frustrations by hitting the driving range. We have this huge driving range with all grass tees, target greens. It's a great place to come and work on your golf.
That's one of the coolest driving ranges that I've ever seen. I'm not a big golfer, but that's a lot of fun to head out there. And you've been getting some great weather, too. I know it's been a little bit hot some days, but all in all, I think you have to be pretty happy, I would think, with the weather you've been getting this summer out at Flowing Springs.
Oh, no question about it. It gets a little warm at times, but you got to remember, people spend thousands of dollars in January to go and experience the same weather. So, come on, folks. But, no, it's been good. The mornings have been fantastic. Late afternoon, 4 o'clock on, it's been, quite busy. And, of course, the driving range is doing well as well.
Very cool. Okay, find Brian Raymond and the crew out at Flowing Springs Golf Course. Always good to talk to you, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
Okay, Brendan, take care.
Okay. That is Brian Raymond from Flowing Springs Golf Club. And I've been seeing and hearing about the great shape their greens are in out there. And that's sometimes a challenge for some of the golf courses with some of the heat and some of the dry weather that we've had lately. I just wanted to mention SaskTel Pick the Score. Listeners get 3 chances to call in every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on 620 CKRM, mornings, middays, and the Sportscage. Pick the score of the next Rider game. That's the Friday night game coming against the Ottawa Redblacks. The closest guess to the actual score every week will win a $200 SaskTel gift card. Who couldn't use one of those? Just for playing, you automatically win 2 tickets to the next Rider home game, and those haven't been so easy to come by and may not be so easy to come by as we get through the later parts of the summer and into the fall. The 0-7 Ottawa Redblacks versus the 5-2 Saskatchewan Roughriders. So you can text in your pick for the score at 306-936-6262. I'll read that again. 306-936-6262.
Make sure you leave your name so I can actually put you in. And those tickets are for this game, this Friday's game. So
just add your name. We don't want to have to chase you down to find out what your name is when you text in that score. Okay, very cool. Time to break. Up next, Hour 3, we'll check in with Glenn Suter. You are listening to the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and watching at sportscage.com.
You've always wanted good tires, even back when you had your Diamondback or Kuwahara BMX, taking it off totally rad jumps with your buddies. Now your tires are for your family's safety, which is also rad. Rad drivers go to your local Cooper tire dealer. They carry Cooper Cobra Instinct tires. They bring your car to a shorter stop on wet roads and have decisive maneuvering and sporty performance. Visit your local Cooper tire dealer and ask for Cooper Cobra Instinct tires.
Why test for asbestos? Because before 1990, asbestos was commonly used in more than 3,000 building materials and other products. Because when asbestos fibers become airborne, they get into the lungs and cause severe damage over time. Because asbestos exposure is the #1 cause of work-related deaths in Saskatchewan. Built before 1990? Test for asbestos. Start at worksafesask.ca.
The Roughriders season is here and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
Get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
Pizza is like spending quality time with your significant other. When it's hot, it's awesome. When it's cold, it's awesome. And it's even better when it's Western Pizza. Unlike fast food, you can warm the leftovers up at work the next day and not stink out the lunchroom, like Dolores and her fish. Or go for a walk at lunch and eat it cold. The world is your oyster. But this time, your oyster is delicious Western Pizza.
And get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
Play of the game? Touchdown! More like the game to play. The new Saskatchewan Roughriders Scratch and Win ticket. It's your chance to win 10 years of Rider season tickets, a premium suite for the home opener and the Labor Day Classic, and tons of Rider swag. Plus, 2 chances to win $75,000. Tickets available at your favorite lottery retailers. Proudly brought to you by Sask Lotteries, supporting sport, culture, and recreation across the province. Please play responsibly.
We are 620 CKRM Regina, a Harvard media station.
The news is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of Saskatchewan's biggest selection of Ram trucks and Jeeps. CrestviewChrysler.ca.
It's 5 o'clock. Good evening. Partly cloudy and 22 degrees in Regina. I'm Will Manzik from the SAS Today newsroom with 620 CKRM News. It was an eventful weekend for the Regina Police Service. Police are investigating 3 different attacks involving knives or machetes that occurred in the city. The first one happened on Friday night around 9:10, where police say a man was looking for treatment at the Pasqua Hospital after he says he was slashed during an attempted robbery near Princess Street and Dewdney Avenue. The suspect, who was riding a bike, then fled the area. Then on Saturday night, police responded to the 3900 block of Ray Street after a man reported being slashed with a machete by 2 male suspects. Police say the man was transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And lastly, on Sunday around 6:30 p.m., police say they found a man and woman suffering from stab wounds on the 3100 block of 5th Avenue. Both were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Officers say a woman fled the scene when they arrived. Anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers. A 34-year-old Saskatoon woman has died following a single vehicle rollover near Maymont. Warman RCMP say the crash happened Sunday morning on Highway 16, about 3 kilometers northwest of the community. The driver was taken to hospital with injuries described as non-life-threatening. RCMP, with assistance from a collision reconstructionist, continue to investigate the cause of the rollover. A tentative agreement has been reached between WestJet and its striking flight attendants following a one-day labor dispute. The strike led to hundreds of canceled flights across Canada, including several in Regina and Saskatoon. Canadian Press reporter Hannah Stoll says data from Cirium, a Canadian aviation analytics company, showed 62% of flights yesterday were canceled.
That's more than 300 flights total. Today, the airline has canceled another 16 flights that were scheduled. WestJet says it will share further details on the return to operations as they become available, but travelers with flights scheduled in the coming days should only head to the airport if their flight is confirmed.
Around 4,400 flight attendants represented by the Canadian Union of Public Employees took part in the job action. Both sides still need to approve the deal. The Journey of Hope is in Regina tonight. The emotional journey started by Stalin Gill is meant to bring awareness to rare diseases. Gill's 3-year-old son, Guillermo, has spastic paraplegia, a rare, aggressive, and progressive neurodegenerative condition. Without treatment, the disease will steal Guillermo's ability to walk, speak, eat, and eventually his independence and cognitive ability. Gill and his family are at the Regina Sikh Society on Princess Drive, sharing their story and listening to other families going through similar difficulties. At 6:20 CKRM News, read more stories from around your community and around the province at sastoday.ca and 620ckrm.com. Weather is next.
Matt Fisher here, General Manager at Crestview Chrysler. You know, our staff here is the best in town, so anytime they're ready for a new vehicle, they get the best price. For a limited time, we're giving that same discount to you. And you know what that means. You pay what we pay. We got a huge selection of Ram trucks, Wranglers, Durangos, Pacificas, and everything in between. If you're shopping for something new, this is officially the best time to stop in and see us. Don't miss employee pricing at Crestview in Regina.
Weather for Next Gen Coatings. Spray coatings for truck bed liners, rocker panels, and more. Same company, new name. 1865 McCarra Street, Regina. And Kevin's Marine. Make the most of summer with a boat or pontoon from Kevin's Marine in Fort Capel. kevinsmarine.com.
In your precision weather forecast tonight, becoming partly cloudy, a southwest wind between 15 to 25 kilometers an hour, a low of 11. Tomorrow, partly sunny, a northwest wind between 15 to 30, gusting to 40, a high of 24. Tomorrow night's low, 13. Thursday, partly sunny, a northwest wind between 20 to 35, gusting to 55, a high of 25 degrees. Friday, mostly sunny, a high of 22, and Saturday, partly sunny, a high of 25. Across the province at this hour, Saskatoon 22, Swift Current 23, Assiniboia 22, Broadview and Moosomin 18, Yorkton and Melville 20, Estevan 20, Weyburn 22. Right now in Moose Jaw, it's partly cloudy. There's a northwest wind at 15, gusting to 34. It's 23 degrees. In Regina, partly cloudy, a northwest wind at 22, gusting to 38, and it's 22 degrees. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to the daily newsletter at sastoday.ca.
For over 40 years, you've known them as Regina's trusted vehicle protection specialists. Now they're introducing the next gen of coatings. New name, new level of protection. They're now Next Gen Coatings. 3 generations of their family have served your family, and that hasn't changed. Same owners, same commitment, ready for the next gen of truck beds, rocker panels, trailers, bumpers, and running boards. The company hasn't changed, just the name. Next Gen Coatings, 1865 McCarra Street. The next gen starts now.
At Kevin's Marine, the lineup is stacked and ready. Legendary Lund boats built for serious fishing and non-stop family fun. Stretch out, crank the tunes, and cruise in style on a brand new pontoon from Bentley or Crest. Or drop the throttle and make waves in a 4-wind sport boat. All powered by trusted Mercury 4-stroke motors. Right now, manufacturer rebates, dealer discounts, and low payment financing. Make decking easy with Shoremaster aluminum docks and lifts. Visit Kevin's Marine in Fort Capel or kevinsmarine.com.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents The Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com, our YouTube channel, and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Brendan McGuire and Colson Schultz pinch hitting for Barney on the Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage. Still ahead on this edition of the program. Trivia for Pump Jack Saloon and the sprinkle of the day for Sports Select, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about the Saskatchewan Roughrider Foundation. So lots to go over here in hour number 3. But before we do that, we're going to go to Glenn Suter.
Time now for press coverage with CFL and Saskatchewan Roughrider legend Glenn Suter on the Sports Cage. Brought to you by Freeze Tome and Lumber. Locally owned, family grown, rooted in our community for 70 years in Regina and Fort Capel.
Geez, we've had so many West Coast guys on. Or no, Arash is Toronto. Never mind. I get always confused about all that. Hey, where's your CKRM hat? What is going on here? You're slipping.
I've been waiting for some time now for Barney to come up with, the 100-year look of the logo and the whole deal. So, I'm kind of holding off. And every time I don't wear the hat, it's a hint about somehow, and I don't mind, paying. I don't mind buying the hat. But I want to get that 100th anniversary hat.
I think that's the only one I don't have in my collection either. So I'm with you. Yeah, and I haven't got. Yeah. They don't just give those away.
No, no, I don't think they do. They're hard to get, and that's why everyone wants them. So yeah, no, hey, I've been listening in. It's been quite the great conversation on a lot of different things, Canadian Football League wise. Brendan and I, I don't know where you want to start, but maybe the Quali Connolly reverse hurdle. How about there?
Yeah, that was a pretty sweet play. It kind of reminded me of when Nick Lewis hurdled a guy, although this was different. I mean, Nick's hurdle was a lot higher, but he wasn't backwards. That's pretty cool. That's something that would definitely make the NFL highlight reels for sure from a week.
Oh yeah. I mean, Dustin and I just lost our mind there in the booth at the time. And, it's funny what we do for a living, where in real time, your buddies or whomever, a fan, will text you or send you a note through social media, immediately trying to correct what you just said or trying to give you some more information on it. Like, for instance, during that play, when that play happened, I think I said something along the lines of, it probably has happened, but I have never in my time seen a move like that from a tailback in my time in the game. And I got like immediate text saying Saquon Barkley in the NFL did the exact same thing. And I was like, okay, well, probably, but I didn't see it, so it's interesting.
I don't know if you played with Marshall Hamilton. I think your careers may have just missed each other. Okay, so you did. Yeah, he and I do the In the Huddle show every week on Access Communications, and a little shameless plug for us. But that's what he wanted to talk about when we went in to do the TV show. He said, yeah, that Saquon Barkley move. It seems like a lot of people are calling it that way for that move that Quali made. And we've been showing a lot of different graphics talking about how much better the Rough Riders are with A.J. Ouellette in the lineup as opposed to when he's not in the lineup. So we've been talking a lot about all the things he does away from the football, because in hockey, you hear how hockey people always talk about, oh, he doesn't score lots, but it's what he does away from the puck. But most football fans don't know anything about what a guy does away from the football, and it's a big reason why a lot of defenders don't get the credit that they necessarily deserve. I feel like with Conley, he's coming along, and they seem to be encouraged about the blocking that he's doing. But that makes a big difference, doesn't it? Especially O-linemen. They notice which running backs are helping out that way and which are not.
Well, for sure. And, in fact, I would say that for when you have a quarterback like Trevor Harris, a veteran guy you can win on any given day for sure, it's a higher priority to be a great blocker than it is to be a great runner. So if you can run the ball better than anybody but can't block, you're not making the lineup. It's just simple as that. You got to be able to step in there. And I actually did some telestrator work in the broadcast with Connolly's blocking. And there was a couple of times where he picked up the blitz nicely. One time when he hit a defender around waist height and he just flipped right over top of him, allowed Trevor to throw the ball. So I've been noticing as well, in a live broadcast, there's a lot to look at. But I noticed a couple of times that he picked up blocks and he chipped on the edge and helped his offensive tackles, offensive linemen. But I think this is a team. The Riders are a team, and one of the reasons for their success is that the guys on the skilled players, let's call them, they're not worried about getting their nose dirty. They're going to go out and make those blocks. We see all the receivers do it, the tailbacks do it, and that really is part of their edge, I believe.
Yeah, I feel like it all stems from, coaching, of course, and the schemes, but I feel like it's MLS. We had Ray Elgard, your old teammate, on the TV show the one day, and I asked him, does MLS remind you of yourself? And he said, no, there is no Ray Elgard today, and I don't think the rules would allow for that. But I feel like MLS is maybe the closest thing to it, the way he's mauling guys downfield. What's your take on that? I feel like him and Ouellette, just with how physical they are with blocking and pushing guys around, it seems like these other players like Conley that you mentioned are just following their lead.
Yeah, probably. For MLS, I would say from a sort of a mindset point of view, yes. I would agree with Ray in that there's only one Ray Elgard, and such a unique player. Basically, a huge tight end that looked for contact rather than look to try and make a move. He looked for content to slap you around as a DB, get you out of his way so he could run his routes. And, I see the same sort of aggressive play from Sam. And that comparison I could see. Very different body types, obviously, different types of route runners, all those kind of things. But he loves to go out there and find somebody to block, and he'll make sure he maintains those blocks. You see it every single game, and it is probably trickling through the entire lineup. And AJ's the same way. I'm not saying Connolly at this point is better than AJ when it comes to blocking, but you can see that this is a priority for him as well.
Talking about the Roughriders and Elks battle, I felt like that game was a good reminder of just how beautiful that stadium is when it's full, at least when the lower bowl is full. And I know you've played games in that stadium with big crowds where the end zone's been full and whatnot. But when I think of this Edmonton-Saskatchewan battle and how it could come right down to it, I think you and Dustin were talking about how the last game of the year will be in Regina, and wouldn't that be something if it's for first place? I know you're a lot more than just a football guy. Are you a baseball guy?
Not really. I watched the World. Okay. I watched the World Series last year. Like I followed along too, but not really. Just what's for baseball for me, and I know so many people love it, so don't send me notes. But it just not enough happens. You're
getting better with that, but I see what you mean. There's a lot of standing around.
You know what I mean? Like even a running play for 2 yards in football or rugby, even, when you just it's almost a scrum or just something that most would say it's just a routine play. You can, if you're watching a different position, or you're watching a cool block, or you're watching an O lineman and D lineman go at it. I mean, there is always something to pull your attention to when you're watching. I find the same in hockey. I love hockey, and I love watching hockey, especially playoff hockey. So or international, whenever we're in the Olympics or whatever it may be, and to watch away from the puck sometimes is just as good. Watch those defensemen and how, they make their decisions and when they need to get back out of there or when they need to pinch, and all of those things are fascinating. But for baseball, for me, I kind of like, and it was partially because when my son played and he was a good player, I was having trouble watching my son play baseball.
I appreciate the honesty. I'm glad you didn't just go along with it and say sure. And if you hadn't watched the World Series, you would have had your passport revoked. So
yeah, exactly. That was you had to watch that.
I was just going to make the point that I am a big baseball fan, and I remember I still have trouble with the wild card. And I remember when the Blue Jays won their World Series, 92-93, there was no wild card. That was the last 2 years with no wild card. That same season, Barry Bonds signed with the San Francisco Giants, and they had a massive lead after the All-Star break for the National League West, and he was taunting some of the Atlanta Braves players at the All-Star game about how you're done, your run is over. And the Braves came storming back and won 104 ball games by the time it was all said and done. And they sent the Giants home, who ended up with 103 wins. And the Giants absolutely should have been in the playoffs. But I just thought it was such a great story, not because I like or dislike Barry Bonds, but because it showed that you have to fight right till the end and that the regular season really matters. And many people look back at that and call it the last great pennant race, because we don't really have pennant races anymore in baseball. And I feel like we're maybe seeing the same thing in the CFL West Division this year, because the home team in the West Final has won 10 of the last 11. Mm-hmm. And this is the last year that finishing first puts you right in the West Final at home. And I feel like that if it does come down to that last regular season game, that will be the most meaningful regular season game the CFL will see for quite a long time because of the changes to the playoff format. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's no question this year that if it comes down to first place in the division in that final week, and I believe it's the final game of the season. I
think so. Yep.
Yeah, it's the last game of the year. So regular season game. So yeah, if it comes down to it, you're basically watching, probably, and I don't want to look past Calgary or even BC in this case, but you're looking at the preview of a playoff game. You're looking at first place in that bye. It's going to be massive. It's almost like the same importance of a playoff game when you look at our format currently. And I've been listening a lot to the conversation about the playoff format changing. And I know I've taken a bunch of heat about sort of being on the fence, that I am sort of wait and see on some of these changes, because I've heard and I see some of the changes this year, and I look at them and say, I like them. There's a few that I like. Now, if you were just dead set against all of these all the way from the very beginning, then you're not going to like this explanation or this discussion on it, because I was in a position to say, from what I'm hearing from some board of governors and people in the league, is that the game is great, but we need to be better, and we need to keep evolving, and we need to keep finding new ways to increase the entertainment value. And so whether you agree with them or not, I want to go in with an open mind. And that's what I've been saying for a long time. Okay, there's some that I'm not crazy about from the outside looking in. And there were some that I thought, hey, this might look good, like the Rouge rule. I think the Rouge rule change is outstanding. I like this overtime 2-point shootout if you don't have a winner after 2 tries. I think the 2-point shootout is going to be real cool to watch. And if it comes down to a playoff game and a 2-point shootout, I mean, that's going to be pretty exciting, edge of your seat stuff. So I've been trying to keep that open mind, take a look at these changes and say, where could this go? What's the trickle down that we're not seeing? And that could turn out to be negative, to your point about the playoff change. But when I look at it from a TV point of view, we get more playoff games under the new format. Not necessarily TSN because there's another network involved and all those things, but you know what I mean? There's more playoff games to put on TV. So that to me, thank you, Colson. That's exactly part of it. But the other part of it is there is nothing more intense to me than watching NHL playoff time, especially that first round. But NHL playoffs to me is must-watch TV, especially when there's a Canadian team in it. All our teams are Canadian, and there'll be more playoff games. That is a good thing from a TV entertainment perspective. Now, the competitive thing and one team not making it, Barney and I and Sharky are calling it the loser team. From now on, moving forward, the loser team, there'll only be one of them that doesn't make it. And you don't want to be in that position. And it may feel a little ugly to say, the 2-16 Ottawa Red Blacks made the playoffs. That would be a little tough. But let me ask you this, Brendan, and maybe Colson can weigh in too because of his age group. And, we're talking about a younger demographic here. In this world of must-see right now, forget about that headline yesterday because there's a new headline today, phone scrolling, and all of that stuff. Will the downside of one team not making the playoffs be forgotten in about 10 hours, and the fact that there are more teams in the playoffs and more playoff games be the next thing that most people are talking about? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm throwing it out there.
I think that the only thing that the NFL beats us on, and I say us as the CFL because I look at the two countries, Canada and the US, one is much bigger and more powerful, but bigger does not necessarily mean better. And I feel like the CFL to NFL is a microcosm of that. And the one area, the only area that the NFL really beats us at is they have such an inventory smorgasbord of games to offer when you tune in and you can flip around. And I think this playoff thing will help with that. I don't like it myself, but I do see the upside to it. And most people have short attention spans and really aren't all that analytical. So my view on it is I think it'll be forgotten by most people. I don't think most people are going to care once the games get going and will probably prefer how it is. As a fan, I'm open-minded enough that I'm going to give it a chance because I have no other choice. And it's not so bad that I'm going to stop loving the CFL because all of a sudden there's 8 teams in the playoffs instead of 6. And by the way, I have a name for the age demographic of Colson. What are you guys called? You're not millennials, are you? What are you?
I'm in a weird middle ground, actually. I'm one of the splitters where I'm either millennial or Gen Z.
I'm between millennial and something else, and I refuse to be part of any demographic. I call them young punks, but go ahead, Colson.
I just turned 29, so I don't know if I'm still a young punk, but I'm very curious to see with the playoffs. I do think it's amusing to have the one team miss. Hopefully we have a 10th team pretty soon, so it's not just the one team. But I do think it also makes, because of the way they structured it, it's not just 8 teams in the playoffs. It's 1 and 2 in your division get their spots. Yeah. And then I think that makes it interesting because if you're 3rd in your division now, that makes it rough for you, right? So I think that will make it interesting. And yeah, I had a couple things I also wanted to hop in on. The Edmonton and Roughrider game in week 21 is technically the last game because Ottawa and Hamilton is also playing at the same time, so we'll just call it the last game because that game won't matter at all. Like, the two opposite sides of the spectrum right there. Like, how did we plan that?
Yeah,
that's okay. We can steal the thunder, and I like the fact that some of the games overlap. I think it means it creates, like we said, that flipping experience. I remember one day there was Canada West playoff action, and my wife and I are flipping from that to CFL, and she said, this is kind of like an NFL viewing thing. So I think the long-term future is to get to like 12 teams and partner and maybe pull some of these college games and make it part of Red Zone TV or whatever it is. And that's a nice segue. What I wanted to wrap on, Glenn, was I've been meaning for a while to talk to you about the TSN production. And what I mean by that is, as we know, TSN became the exclusive provider in 2008, and certainly at the very beginning, it was like a breath of fresh air with how much enthusiasm they were showing. And Brian Williams' interviews had been good with CBC, and then I felt like it was more interrogating and whatever. But over time, I did feel like there were elements of the broadcast that had become a little bit stale. And what I mean by that is, I think that if you have the same people in the same set, it's inevitable that some things are going to get a little bit stale. I think Fox NFL actually got really stale. I think it's still stale with that same panel, but it's the NFL and Americans don't want to do anything else on Sundays. I think that since the beginning of last season, when they did the new intro for the Friday Night Football and they got the players singing and they got Terrell Ford singing, what is it? The CFL is Canada's game. I can't get that out of my head, and it sounds so good. If I ever meet Terrell Ford, I'm going to sing that to him. And I was kind of annoyed when they did their first broadcast on CTV in almost 40 years, and they didn't wear like old jackets and a new score bug and all those things. But we're seeing a lot more of that, it seems like. So I guess the question, I feel like the network has really upped its game in the last year and even this year, and you can tell that it has a lot of those things that people felt were maybe lacking. Do you feel like there's been a bit of a rejuvenation there with the broadcasts in the last couple of years? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when behind the curtain, every year we try to make changes. We try to look at what has worked in the past. What new innovation can we look at? What new equipment can we look at? Once we get to playoffs and Grey Cup, there's so many more cameras. There's more super slow-mo, more, we would love to have, for instance, that camera that floats above the field that makes the game look like a video game for kids. We would like to have that in every single game, but then you start to get into the cost versus, what you're getting out of it. And those are meetings that I'm not invited to, but, every year we have these meetings, Brennan, and we're always trying to find new ways to innovate. And but I'll digress a bit here, because in our break for the Lightning between the two teams, Dustin and I went into a discussion on MOP candidates right now, and Trevor Harris was one of them. And I said at the time, and I'll repeat it here if listeners didn't hear it, that I think at times, because Trevor has been so consistently good, great for that matter, that we start to take for granted that excellence, that level of excellence. And I think there's got to be a line between, yes, innovate, but let's not, and I'm not, this is not a pat on myself on the back or our crews on the back kind of thing. It's just a, let's take a look at the production value, the storytelling, the promotion of the players on the field and their coaches, and the amount of work that goes in is truly remarkable. And that's everybody. That's behind the scenes, stats guys, all of it. So, I hope that fans don't take for granted that level of production, because I would put our games with like not even half the actual cameras and equipment that they have down south for every regular season game. We're dealing with a bigger, wider field and like less than half the equipment. So I'd put ours against anything they're doing down there. And that, yes, there's graphics that come out that are more expensive and different for them and probably better in some people's minds. That's fine. But again, I think, especially when you think a guy like Trevor, no one's talking about Trevor Harris as the outstanding player Trevor Harris is having a year where he may throw for 6,000 yards. And he's got his Grey Cup champion team, which, by the way, puts a target on you every single game you play in the following year. He has them back in the position they want to be in the standings, and with a real opportunity to go ahead and try and repeat. And that's MOP stuff. And no one's talking about Trevor, because he's so consistently great. And when you're consistently great, don't take it for granted, because once you lose those people down the road that made it that great, you will see the drop-off. That's how teams lose. They take for granted the talent that they have, and they say, you know what, we can replace him with rookie A, B, C, or D over here, and we'll be just as good and we'll be spending less money. Well, maybe, but you know what probably happens? You're not as good, he's not as good, or he takes 5 years to get as good, and you notice immediately because you're losing games. So, you know, I look at TV in a lot of the same way. Any business this applies to, it really does. Taking for granted excellence in your employees is a true way to fail as a business.
People get bored with consistency, and that's kind of the tragedy in it.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly right. Do not get bored with consistent greatness. And I think that's the point. But yeah, and you know what? Listen, there's competition next year.
I was just going to ask you about that. Are you excited about that? Because maybe it'll be nice to see, hey, this is what they did. Maybe they did this better than us, but we did this better than them. And maybe the people whining about us weren't right after all. And you know what? This is a good opportunity because they did this. Now we're going to, you know what? We're going to beat them because we're going to do this differently now. And what we're going to do is better than what they're, you know? Like, yeah, it's kind of fun to have that measuring stick, isn't it?
Brendan, I love it. You know, I love it. I don't like losing 20 games that our network's going to lose, or 23 game, whatever it is, the total. Every Saturday night they'll do a game at the Zone. So, but I love it, honestly. I mean, competition is going to push everybody, and I think I look at it as a bit of a challenge too. I go back and look at a whole bunch of my taped games to self-scout and say, how can I get better? Because there is someone coming along, and let's show them how good we can do it. So that, you know, if you don't have that in your system somehow, you know, you're probably in the wrong business. It's a highly competitive business on and off the field. And I'm all for competition. Let's see how they do it. Let's see if we can steal some stuff, or maybe people go, wow, you know what? TSN was pretty good.
It's kind of like when who was it? Genius Sports took over from, I think, Sharp Hat or whatever the company was called, and then had nothing but problems for the first year or two. So they learned a lot of things that, oh, you know, the last guys weren't so bad either, and it took them a while to straighten it out. I've totally monopolized this interview. Colson, what did you want to add?
I was just coming in. So we've talked about how we like some of these rule changes. You mentioned how you like the 2-point shootout at the end. I'm a fan of it too. I do miss the interesting standings that happens from a tie, just because it makes it interesting, right? But I did learn in our weather delay, there is still like a 1% chance of a tie happening, because if it's the last time two teams meet, and the weather cancels the game, and the score is not wide enough, they are given a tie. So just so you know, ties aren't completely dead in the CFL.
So how close does the score have to be for them to call it a draw because of a weather delay?
It depends on when in the game it happens. Like if it's after the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, and you're in the lead, you pretty much just win it. If it's earlier in the game, depending on how big the lead is, they will just award a team a win. So that's kind of the gray area. And then this has to be the last time those teams meet. So if this Edmonton Roughrider game had been postponed, canceled, whatever, the next time we play at the end of the season, we would have done kind of a mini overtime series to start the game to determine a winner. So that's condensing a lot of weird rules for you. If you really want to go figure it out, go look at the CFL website. But I was just really happy. Like, wait, the tie is not completely dead. There is a small opportunity. So
well, and I would say, Colson, that it's not completely dead. And with all of those caveats you talked about that have to happen for it to happen, I would say, you know, that's a long, long shot normally, but with what's going on in our country with smoke, and the cancellation of games for that, and postponement of games for that, lightning in the area with the difference in climate and all of those things. So it's probably more likely than you think.
Yeah. Well, just remember today, if it does happen, that's all I'm saying. But yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
That's just all totally above my pay grade, but it means it'll probably happen before the season is out. Suits, great job as always. We'll talk to you again later this week.
Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. And that is press coverage with Glenn Suter. And we always enjoy our chats with him. And I suspect he may be in Regina, although I didn't ask him for the game on Friday night.
Could be.
The broadcast against the Ottawa Red Blacks.
Try and find his CKRM 100 hat then.
He'll be scouting around for that and part of the pregame show as well. Time to break. Still ahead on this. Oh, you want to add?
Right before we do that, we're going to do trivia now, right?
We're going to do it right now. Okay. So trivia for Pump Jacks. And you are going to take it away because you came up with just a brilliant idea for today's trivia question.
Yeah, I do have to find that sponsor read. So
well, that's okay. I'll fill when you find the sponsor.
We can do it after the break, too. So I'm going to ask the question here. You can call in, and after the break, we'll take your answer. So the question is, what is the most consecutive losses by a CFL team in the modern era? So that's, you said... Post-1958 is considered the modern era?
Including 58, but 58 and beyond. Yeah.
So what is the looking for the number? If you bring the team name, that's great too. The number of consecutive losses, all-time CFL record. Most consecutive losses. This could be over 2 seasons, could be all in 1 season. Looking for the number.
What's the longest losing skid in modern CFL history since 1958? And in today's era of electronics and search engines, it's easier than ever to find the answer.
Sure thing. So let's take that break.
And make sure we want them to call in at 1-866-767-0620. And you can call the text line too, correct?
Yeah.
306-936-6262.
Get it hot, get it fast. Western Pizza.
Western Pizza is more than just pizza, and we don't mean ribs and pasta. But for the record, you can get that there too. No, Western Pizza is the perfect partner for every occasion. From late nights polishing papers to parties full of people passing it around while conversation peaks. It's premium leftovers. It's what you pick up for a picnic on a pristine summer day. And of course, it always pleases the palate. Dine in or take out today.
And get it hot, get it fast. Western Pizza.
The Roughriders season is here, and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
If you've got a Steelcraft garage door, you've got a door with parts manufactured and assembled right here in Canada. A door with better insulation and seal, plus a warranty you're probably never going to use. And if you don't have a Steelcraft garage door, you should get one. Don't just hang a door, install a Steelcraft. Turn curb appeal into curb envy.
Steelcraft door, Steelcraft door, Steelcraft door. We offer more.
Steel-craft.ca.
Winter in Saskatchewan tests everything, our patience, vehicles, and sometimes our bumpers. From icy parking lot dings to serious highway mishaps, choosing local matters. At Regina Motor Products Collision Center, we're Saskatchewan owned, run, and we drive these roads too. An SGI accredited full-service collision center working on all makes and models. Submit your SGI claim and book your appraisal. It's easy. When you need repairs you can trust, it's neighbors helping neighbors. Regina Motor Products Collision Center, south at Highways 1 and 6 Albert Street, rmpchevrolet.com.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs needed for everyday activities. This helps them prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
SaskToday.ca is your local news source, proudly serving communities all across Saskatchewan. Sask Today's team of local journalists are on the ground focusing on local topics that matter to you. From agriculture, local community news, sports, and more. Find it all at SaskToday.ca. Sign up for our daily news digest at SaskToday.ca. From Harvard Media, everywhere.
It's time for Sportscage Trivia for Pump Jacks. Great food, cold local draft, and a place that feels like home.
Okay, so that question for trivia for Pump Jacks Cathedral. Name the team that has the longest losing skid, regular season. We're looking for the number.
Not the name of the team.
but what is the longest losing streak in the modern era of the Canadian Football League, going back to and including 1958? We have John in Regina. John?
That's right.
What have you got?
A wild guess here. 22.
John, you're aiming a little high.
Oh.
Can I give the real answer?
You can.
Okay. I remember it like yesterday.
Yep.
The Shreveport Pirates, and I didn't know this till Colson told me, of 1994 started their existence at 0-14. That is the record and remains the record. And that wasn't even spread over multiple years. That was in 1 year. And what was even more embarrassing, they didn't have to dress any Canadians. They were allowed a full American lineup, and they still started 0-14.
It happens to the best of us, right? Yeah, I want to shout out CFL Stats Geek, who's on Instagram, and X, who posted that one, because why this is relevant is because the Ottawa Redblacks, who are currently 0-7, are actually 0 for their last 13, which means they're one loss away from tying that record.
I'm surprised that we haven't had longer streaks. Like, I'm not surprised that nobody's gone 0-18 before.
Now, I'm surprised with that too in one season. But we have had longer streaks technically. It's just, this is the modern CFL, right? So the caveat of CFL Stats Geek's list here is that the Interprovincial Rugby Football Union has 2 teams on this list. So that's the precursor to the CFL, right? The Hamilton Wildcats between 1948 and 1949 had 16 consecutive losses. And the, Ottawa Senator Roughriders in 1928 to 1932 had 25 consecutive losses. Then we hop over to U Sports for number 2 with a very recent, the University of Toronto Blues from 2001 to 2008. I don't know if you're familiar, but they lost 49 straight.
They're really bad. I think York is really bad too, and that's what's so great. Like, we do the University of Regina Ram games here on 620 CKRM. I get to do them for another year. It's my 3rd year behind the mic. Really excited about that. Season opens on the first Friday in September in Edmonton. But anyways, I digress. We have great competitive balance in Canada West with all 6 teams. And in some of these other conferences, they do not.
Yeah.
Including Ontario. There's some bottom feeders. So they have. It doesn't surprise me that the Varsity Blues would have one of those records.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, aren't they one of the university teams with a Grey Cup win too? Or is that like, I know Queens has 30.
I think they do, because there's been over 40 Grey Cups, I think, played at Varsity Stadium.
Yeah.
So it probably would be. And a lot of people were chapped a few years ago because the idea was that the Argos were going to get their new stadium at Varsity, and it was going to be this very pretty park. It all fell apart for some reason. I don't know all the details behind it, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, very historic, and I'm not surprised that they would have that dubious record.
But they aren't the worst. There is one more that's worse.
Who is?
We have to go to the, and it's a small print, so forgive me, FKA Winnipeg Rods of Canadian Junior Football. So that's a junior football league specifically in Winnipeg. And so the St. James Rods Football Club from 1979 to 1985 had 51 consecutive losses.
Probably why they don't exist anymore.
Good chance. So, yeah.
So there you go. Well, I had no idea that the Red Blacks were entering such dubious, famous record-setting territory. I thought that would come later in the season, but they could tie the record if they lose in Regina on Friday night in what might be a trap game for the Roughriders. Who knows? Do you have your sprinkle of the day picked out? Because I don't.
Well, Arash brought it up earlier, actually, the one that I like, because last week he mentioned it. It might have actually been somebody else, but someone mentioned last week that on Sprinkle of the Day, if you're looking at futures, the Grey Cup odds, Montreal, Sask, the Elks are at the top. That's not too surprising there. But BC last week, I think it was, or the week before, they were paying 12-1. Since then, they're paying 22-1. I'm not saying I want BC to win the Grey Cup, but of teams that potentially could win the Grey Cup, that's really long odds and really great value.
Especially if Rourke is healthy and coming back.
Yeah, and if that news comes out tomorrow, or tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Yeah, so if that news comes out tomorrow or Thursday, this line is going to change. So
This might be the day to do it.
Exactly. Winnipeg's paying 18-1. Toronto's paying 7-1. Not too interested in those because I don't think Winnipeg's got anything together anymore, and I just don't like Toronto.
And a lot of them are more narrow, including Saskatchewan, which is 4.25 to 1, and the Alouettes are the biggest favorite at 2.45 to 1. But I'm with you, yeah, because the only two teams paying out worse odds to win the Grey Cup would be Hamilton and Ottawa, and I don't like either one of their chances. Hamilton might not be a bad buy, because if they've got a healthy Bo Levi Mitchell...
Yeah, if they can keep in the playoffs and he comes back.
At 35 to 1.
Yeah, that one's pushing it a bit just on plausibility, I would say, just for my taste. So maybe, I am not a gambler, though. Well, that's Barney.
Me neither, but Sports Select, I feel like if there's ethical gambling, I think it's Sports Select as much as anybody. And so your sprinkle of the day is BC to win the Grey Cup at 22 to 1 odds. Yep. Mine is Hamilton to win the Grey Cup at 35 to 1 odds. Your $5 wager would pay out 110, and mine would pay out 175.
Yeah, I can write that in our book if you want, and we'll check back in at the Grey Cup to see who was right.
Somebody's going to have to record that somewhere, because otherwise I'm going to forget it.
I can do that.
Okay.
Sprinkle of the day brought to you by Sports Select. Simple, make your picks online, generate your QR code, lock in your bet at your local Lotto Spot retailer. Every bet is 100% legal with a chance of winning cash in hand. Sports Select, when you're ready to play, bet on the original. Must be 18 plus to play, and play responsibly. The most important part.
Great job, Mr. Voice. You just nailed that.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. We're going to take one more break, and then we will come back to wrap. You are listening to the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and watching at sportscage.com.
Since 1942, Unifor 594 has safely served the community and the ever-changing energy sector. We are the unionized workers at the Co-op Refinery in Regina and the Co-op Ethanol Complex in Belle Plaine. We are process operators, tradespeople, lab techs, warehouse workers, tank car loaders, administration staff, and so much more. Unifor 594 workers are also your neighbors, your friends, your volunteers, your community. Unifor 594. Safety is our business.
If you've got a Steelcraft garage door, you've got a door with parts manufactured and assembled right here in Canada. A door with better insulation and seal, plus a warranty you're probably never going to use. Combined with a LiftMaster opener, it's the right choice. And if you don't have a Steelcraft garage door, you should get one. And a LiftMaster opener. 100% made by Canadians for Canadians. Steady, tariff-free pricing and great quality, no matter what.
Steelcraft door, Steelcraft door, Steelcraft door. We offer more.
The Roughriders season is here, and the biggest 50-50 in Saskatchewan is back. Last year's 50-50 raised over $3.3 million for amateur football in Saskatchewan, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Rider Nation. This year, we have bigger loyalty and early bird prizes than ever before, not to mention those life-changing 50-50 jackpots. See all of the prizes and buy your tickets today at riders5050.ca, and never miss a chance to win when you sign up for the 50-50 Club.
Riders 50-50 is presented by ISC.
Lottery license LR260010.
Why test for asbestos? Because before 1990, asbestos was commonly used in more than 3,000 building materials and other products. Because when asbestos fibers become airborne, they get into the lungs and cause severe damage over time. Because asbestos exposure is the #1 cause of work-related deaths in Saskatchewan. Built before 1990? Test for asbestos. Start at worksafesask.ca.
Text CKRM 306-936-6262. Powered by Prairie Land Rentals. From power tools to skid steers, they probably have what you need for your job. 600 Albert Street, where you deal with the owner. It's time for the Sports Ticker. Brought to you by Steelcraft Doors Regina. Made in Western Canada for Western Canadians.
Got that Steelcraft Doors song in my head. Coming up tonight, Western Canadian Baseball League, 3 games happening. The Regina Red Sox are visiting the Moose Jaw Miller Express. Up 7:05 opening pitch. Of course, the Red Sox will open the playoffs later on this week against the Saskatoon Berries. They will finish 3rd, trying to get a little bit closer to the 500 mark, although they will finish below with a losing record. Medicine Hat Mavericks visiting the Swift Current 57s. That's also a 7:05 7:05 opening pitch. 57's not going to the postseason. The Mavericks will end up in that number 4 spot. Maybe that depends on whether or not they can get one more win or not. The Weyburn Beavers, who host the Saskatoon Berries tonight at 7:05, still have a chance to catch Medicine Hat and grab that number 4 spot. Whoever finishes 4th will play Moose Jaw, the number 1 seed, in the first round. I know it's all very confusing, but the season is almost over. Canada is on the ice at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, right now playing Slovakia. They're probably around the end of the first period. Liam Pugh and Maddox Schultz from the Regina Pats playing for Team Canada. And the Blue Jays will get underway in about 20 minutes' time against the Houston Astros for the second game of their series. And now that the Regina Pats are lowering their ticket prices, are you more likely to attend a game next season? Vote at sportscage.com. That is the sportscage.com poll, and that is the ticker for this Tuesday. I had to think about that for a second. Forgot about the holiday Monday on the program. Brendan McGuire and Colson Schultz with you. And I just wanted to mention the Saskatchewan Roughrider Foundation. We do a lot of stuff here at Harvard Media, partnering with them. They have plenty of exclusive getaways and experiences up for grabs. There's a new early bird prize to be won every game. Buy your tickets online at riders5050.ca. The current early bird prize up for grabs, a Rocky Mountaineer for 2. The package includes flight from Saskatoon to Vancouver, then the return flight from Edmonton. Also a 2-day via rail ride from Vancouver to Jasper. I've gone on one of those rides. Those are really cool. And 2 nights hotel accommodation, or you can take $8,000 cash. Deadline is Thursday night at 10 p.m. Don't forget to go to riders5050.ca.
I was going to say, the Rocky Mountaineer is like a luxury train trip through the Rockies. So it's a train trip.
It's pretty sweet. And I've never gone on that particular, but I've been on that route on the Via Rail. I remember as a young man, when I was 9 years old, traveling home from Vancouver. Somehow we took the train up through Jasper and Edmonton, and I haven't been back since, but I've missed out. So,
the only train relation experience I have there is, I think there's the horseshoe tunnels there. When you drive through, you can take a look at them and stuff. So that's my direct experience, and then the museum in Revelstoke. Been there a few times, but I do have a story from my dad back in the day when Grandpa was running their truck business. They bought some trucks out in BC, and they took the train out there to go get them and then drive them back, and there was an avalanche on the way there.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and this would have been back in the 80s or 90s, so not as sophisticated of tech nowadays, so they had to ration and stuff, wait a couple days to get out of the way, but I don't think we'll run into that on this experience. I think they take safer routes.
I've never done it myself, but I've heard from a lot of friends who have, what they would do is they'd drive to Minot, park their car, and they'd get on a train that would take you to Minneapolis, and if you wanted to keep going, it would take you right to Chicago and probably other places. Mm-hmm. And some people don't care about what's happening in the U.S. politically and will still go ahead and enjoy that trip. I am not one of those people. I am not traveling to the United States in the foreseeable future. But train rides are cool, and they can take you all over the place, and it's not that crazy expensive like it is to fly. And I think everybody should experience that at some point in their life, whether it's going down to Chicago through Minneapolis to watch an NFL game or a Major League Baseball game, or if it's to go through Edmonton, Jasper, or in the Rocky Mountains. Wow, we made it through the program and nothing blew up. I want to thank all of our guests, Glenn Suter, J.C. Abbott, Arash Madani, and those who texted and called. And also, we'll be back tomorrow for the program, the Wednesday edition of the show. I think they'll get talent back in here on Thursday to help Colson out. So I'm going to fly the ship for one more day. We're going to talk more about this game coming up on Friday night against the Ottawa Redblacks. And I think it's a trap game. I might bring in the mouse trap that I have from the shed in the backyard. One day my daughter and I were out there and a mouse was in the shed, so I've got a couple of big traps, and we've never caught anything with it in the 3 years since that happened.
Did you use peanut butter? They like peanut butter.
No, nothing. Didn't try that. Maybe that'll get them. But the point is, I do have some concern about this game. What I'm more interested in is and I might even go down to practice tomorrow to ask him. Trevor Harris has had the unique experience in his lifetime of being irreplaceable by his former employer. Mm-hmm. I think that we have all had that fantasy at some point in our lives that we are irreplaceable and that our employer better give us what they want or treat us better. And sometimes that's true, but often in life, that fantasy does not match reality. But in his case, he left over what was believed to be like a $50,000 dispute over what his next contract should be. Mm-hmm. And the Ottawa Red Blacks have 100% not replaced him in the 7 years since he left.
Yeah. Actually, the other half of the Double C's, Curtis, has a lovely board for that I'm staring at right now, but we should save it for tomorrow because we're out of time.
What's that, the long list of quarterbacks?
The list of quarterbacks, their records, the collective record of the Red Blacks.
The full meal deal. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And but I'd be curious to hear what Trevor says about what does it feel like to be irreplaceable and actually experience that. We'll talk about that more on tomorrow's show. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened to this program. The Sports Cage is a presentation of Harvard Media and 620 CKRM, and also at sportscage.com.
Winter in Saskatchewan tests everything, our patience, vehicles, and sometimes our bumpers. From icy parking lot dings to serious highway mishaps, choosing local matters. At Regina Motor Products Collision Center, we're Saskatchewan-owned, run, and we drive these roads too. An SGI-accredited full-service collision center working on all makes and models. Submit your SGI claim and book your appraisal. It's easy. When you need repairs you can trust, it's neighbors helping neighbors. Regina Motor Products Collision Center, south at Highways 1 and 6 Albert Street, rmpchevrolet.com.
You've always wanted good tires, even back when you had your Diamondback or Kuwahara BMX, taking it off totally rad jumps with your buddies. Now your tires are for your family's safety, which is also rad. Rad drivers go to your local Cooper tire dealer.